Chapter 34. Su Ming hesitated for a moment. He looked at the fire coming from the tent. In the end, he did not go there. Instead, he returned to his own tent under the moonlight and the falling snow. Perhaps it was because he had not been back for a few days, but the tent was very cold. When he exhaled, there was a puff of white mist. It was so cold that anyone who looked at it would feel it. There was no warmth in the lonely tent. It was completely different from the feeling Su Ming had when he was in Lei Chen's house. Su Ming fell silent. He found some firewood and took out a kindling. Quietly, he started a fire in the lonely house. Even if the qi in his body at the third level of the blood solidification realm could withstand the cold, he did not know why, but he felt that there was something missing in the house that he could not put his finger on. Su Ming sighed softly and lit the fire. The light from the fire gradually spread, bringing with it a wave of warmth that caused the cold in the tent to spread outwards. Su Ming sat by the fire and looked at the dancing flames. He could not help but fall into a daze. He had always been envious of Lei Chun, Bei Ling, and Chen Xian since he was young because they had a family, a father, and a mother. Even if the elder was good to Su Ming, as the elder of the tribe, he had to spend a lot of time protecting and helping his tribe members. Su Ming learned to be independent since he was young. He learned to be alone, and he also learned to be lonely. It was snowing heavily outside. There was also the moaning of the wind, causing the tent to creak. Occasionally, a few gusts of wind would enter the tent, causing the fire to sway violently. Su Ming hugged his knees as the light from the fire shone on him. After a long time, he sighed. The elder said that I'm a child he picked up from the streets. Then are my mother and father still around? There was a dejected look on Su Ming's face. This sort of emotion had been hidden deep within him over the years. He did not want others to see his loneliness, so he always used a smile to hide it all. However, on this snowy night, after he went to Lei Chen's house and felt the warmth there, he returned to his own cold tent. He could no longer hide his feelings. Bai Ling's father and mother aren't by her side either. I wonder if she's already resting or is thinking about something by the fire like me. Su Ming mumbled. Bai Ling's silhouette and her bell-like laughter appeared in his head. His body suddenly trembled as he vaguely guessed why he had such a strange feeling towards Bai Ling. It might be related to her beauty, but it was not the main point. More importantly, Su Ming could sense the same loneliness he felt from her, a loneliness that was hidden deep beneath her smile and mischievousness. As time passed, the warmth of the fire in the tent grew stronger and stronger, causing the cold air to dissipate and condense into drops of water on the tent. The warmth of the tent seemed to have melded into Su Ming's heart, causing his loneliness to show signs of fading away. Yet at that moment, as if the heavens were unwilling, a huge gust of wind suddenly blew past, bringing with it a large amount of snow from the distance. The wind was strong, and when it blew into the tribe, it was as if an invisible hand had swept past. The creaking sounds in Su Ming's tent immediately became louder. Even the door to the tent was flung open. The cold wind immediately filled the tent with moaning sounds. The snow that was mixed with the wind fell on the fire, causing the fire to let out a struggling sound before it was extinguished very quickly. Su Ming lifted his head and looked at the door, swaying in the wind. He looked at the warmth that finally existed in the tent disappearing in an instant. He stood up quietly and walked out of the tent. He stood in the snow and lifted his head to look at the sky. In the sky that was swept by the snow and wind, there was a blurry moon that was covered up. As he looked at the moon, Su Ming remembered the wings of the moon. He remembered the skeleton he saw in the Fire Berserker tribe, and the words carved on the skeleton before it died. The desire of the Berserker covers all directions. Fire fuses with blood. With a single thought, I will burn the heavens. With a single thought, I will light up the heavens. If the moon of fire rises from the clouds, it will shine between the heavens and the earth. At that time, I will meditate and my blood will burn. 9 is the extreme, and 1 is the law. Light the Berserker fire and worship the 9 times. Only then will you be able to worship fire. Su Ming mumbled. These words had appeared many times in his head. He kept thinking about them, but he always felt that he was missing something. The desire of the Berserker can be understood as the desire of the berserker. It's something bad. But that husband, who is he talking about? Is he talking about the skeleton? But it doesn't seem like it. Su Ming sat outside the tent in the snow. To him, it was the same inside and outside the tent. There was no warmth. Fortunately, there was still the moaning wind to accompany him and the moon to look at. Husband, who is it? I don't understand. When the desire of the berserker covers all directions, with a single thought, I will burn the heavens. With a single thought, I will light up the heavens. This sentence seems to be describing a scene. It seems like if I can fuse fire into my blood, then with a single thought, I will be able to light up the heavens. Su Ming's eyes shone brightly. He looked at the moon in the sky and the snow and started thinking about it. If the moon of fire rises from the clouds, it will shine between the heavens and the earth. The elder once said that the sun is yang and the moon is yin. What he said makes sense. Most people will feel warm during the day, but under the moonlight, they will feel cold. But what is the moon of fire? The color of fire is red. Could it be that this is talking about the red moon? The blood moon? Su Ming frowned, unable to understand. At that time, I will meditate, and my blood will burn. 9 is the extreme, and 1 is the law. Light the berserker fire, and worship the 9 times. Then will you be able to worship fire? This sentence seems to be talking about some sort of action, the art of worshiping fire. Su Ming looked at the moon in the sky. Suddenly, he felt as if a bolt of lightning had flashed through his head, causing his eyes to shine brightly. Could it be that these sentences are talking about a berserker art? Su Ming's breathing quickened. He took a deep breath and analyzed it carefully in his head. The more he thought about it, the more convinced he became that there was a berserker art contained within those few sentences. Burn the skies with your will, and burn the skies with your will. Burn the skies with your will, and burn the skies with your will. This sentence is talking about the effects and strength of this berserker art. At that time, I will meditate, and my blood will burn. 9 is the extreme, and 1 is the law. Light the berserker fire, and worship the 9 times. Then will you be able to worship fire? This sentence is talking about how to practice this berserker art. That's right. That should be it. As for the sentence, if the moon of fire rises from the clouds, it will shine between the heavens and the earth. This sentence is talking about the prerequisites for practicing this berserker art. Su Ming's spirits lifted. The words that had caused him to ponder over them for the past few days immediately cleared up once he analyzed them. However, after a moment, he frowned once again. It's still not right. The prerequisites for practicing this berserker art is that the moon of fire rises from the clouds. But it's not. Could it be that I have to wait for a few years until the blood moon appears again before I can practice it? Su Ming fell into deep thought. Even when the moon in the sky was gradually replaced by the light from the sky and morning arrived, Su Ming still could not figure out how to practice it. Su Ming sighed softly and stood up. He stretched his body. When the tribe members gradually walked out of their tents in the morning and started a new day of work, Su Ming walked out of the tribe. The requirement to reach the 4th level of the blood solidification realm is 25 blood veins. I only have 11 blood veins now. I need to hurry up and train. I wonder what the effects of mountain spirit will be after I make it. I hope it will be of help to my training. Su Ming dashed through the forest. Ever since he reached the 3rd level of the blood solidification realm, his speed had become much faster than before. He arrived at Black Flame Mountain in the afternoon. With a few leaps, he climbed towards the cave. When he was halfway there, a smile appeared on Su Ming's face. He heard Xiao Hong's voice faintly. He lifted his head and saw a fiery red figure lying leisurely at the entrance of the cave. It was holding a wild fruit in its hands and chewing on it quickly. As it chewed on the fruit, its eyes darted around its surroundings. When Su Ming looked at it, Xiao Hong also saw him. Its eyes lit up, and it threw away the half-eaten wild fruit. It jumped up and ran towards Su Ming. It even climbed onto Su Ming's back and let out excited cries. Su Ming smiled happily and continued climbing. Before long, he arrived at the entrance of the cave. He took a deep breath of the mountain air and crawled into the cave with the little monkey. Time passed by peacefully. Su Ming once again returned to his previous life of quenching herbs and training. At night, he would look at the moon in the sky and think about the words spoken by the fiery moon rising from the clouds. To make it easier for him to observe the bright moon, he spent some effort to carve out a few small holes in the walls of his smelting cave. This way, he could clearly see the moon outside through the holes when he raised his head while sitting in the cave. The muffled sounds that often came from the cave gradually lessened after a few days. Mountain Spirit was finally created by Su Ming 7 days after he returned to the cave. This was a type of dark blue medicinal stone. The medicinal fragrance was not strong, but when one placed it next to their nose and sniffed it, they would feel as if they were breathing in the mountain breeze. There was also an indescribable feeling circulating inside and outside of their bodies. Mountain Spirit, Su Ming crouched on the wall outside the cave. He looked at the pill in his hands as the sun set. The creation of this pill was much more difficult than the creation of scattering dust. The chances of failure were much higher. Su Ming had used up most of the cloud gauze grass he bought and only managed to create 2 pills. Because of that, Su Ming could not bear to use one of the pills to test its effects. It shouldn't be a poisonous stone. Su Ming sniffed at the medicinal stone's fragrance and observed it for a long time, making his deductions based on his experience. Gradually, when the sky turned dark and the sky turned dark, a resolute look appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He placed the medicinal stone in his mouth. The pill was different from scattering dust. It did not melt in his mouth. Su Ming frowned and bit down a few times before he crushed the pill and swallowed it. He waited for a while, but his body did not feel anything. Su Ming touched his stomach and waited for a while. He even got up and went back to the cave to circulate the blood in his veins. Still, nothing happened. Strange. A pensive look appeared in Su Ming's eyes. After a while, a glint appeared in his eyes, and he brought out a small bottle filled with scattering dust from his bosom. He took out one and swallowed it. The scattering dust quickly melted in his mouth, and a warm feeling immediately spread throughout his body. But at this moment, from within his body, there was suddenly a shocking heat, and it suddenly exploded. Chapter 35. The heat came too suddenly. It was as if it had always been hidden within Su Ming's body and was activated due to the scattering dust. Su Ming's body trembled. At that moment, he felt as if his entire body was about to burn. It even reminded him of the man from Black Mountain Tribe who died because of scattering blood. Su Ming did not panic. Instead, he remained calm. He might have felt as if he was burning, but his calmness allowed him to slowly discover what was different. This burning sensation did not come from his blood boiling. Instead, at that moment, the speed at which his blood was circulating had reached a terrifying degree. It was because his blood was circulating too quickly that he felt as if he was burning. He could even hear his heart racing, as if it was about to explode. What a powerful effect! Su Ming's face was flushed red, but the calmness in his eyes did not diminish. As he mumbled to himself, he closed his eyes and immersed himself in the circulation of his qi. Large amounts of sweat seeped out of his body, and 11 blood veins appeared on his body at the same time. They gave off a piercing red light that illuminated the entire karst cave, making it seem as if it had turned into a blood-colored yellow springs. As the qi in his body circulated, the red light on his body became stronger. Veins could even be seen popping up on Su Ming's body. They looked as if they were wriggling, making Su Ming look even more ferocious. 2 hours passed by in the blink of an eye. During those 2 hours, Su Ming's bee-skin shirt looked as if it was soaked in water. A large amount of sweat dripped down his body. Su Ming's body was also burning red. The 11 blood veins glowed as if they were 11 wounds on his body. At that moment, Su Ming opened his eyes abruptly. His eyes were bloodshot, and he let out a roar. As he roared, a rumbling sound came from his body. The 12th blood vein appeared. The speed at which it appeared was almost instantaneous. It turned from an indistinct form to a solid form, causing the power of Su Ming's qi to increase once again. However, it was not over yet. Once the 12th blood vein appeared, The red glow on Su Ming's body became less intense. But as he roared once again, the 13th blood vein appeared. The moment the 13th blood vein appeared, Su Ming's hair moved even though there was no wind. A powerful presence exploded forth from his frail body. The blood in his body flowed rapidly. At this moment, he no longer felt like he had insufficient blood. Instead, he felt like he had too much blood. If he didn't condense more blood veins, his flesh and blood would collapse. 2 blood veins appeared consecutively, but there was still some heat in his body. Su Ming's face contorted. The heat in his body was so intense that it was almost unbearable. He lifted his right hand and tore off his beast's skin shirt instinctively. His upper body was bare, revealing the 13 blood veins clearly. They were not in a regular pattern. They were scattered across Su Ming's chest, back, and arms. The blood veins were crimson red, as if blood could drip out of them. There was also a large amount of sweat that flowed down Su Ming's body. When they were illuminated by the red light, they looked strangely beautiful. Su Ming's eyes became even redder, but there was no madness within them. He was still calm. All of this was still within his control. He could feel the qi in his body. Without any hesitation, Su Ming circulated his blood again and again according to the inheritance of the way of the berserker. As he refined his blood became thicker. After another hour, Su Ming let out a low roar towards the sky. The 14th blood vein appeared faintly on his body. His roar reverberated throughout the cave, creating countless echoes. It sounded as if there were countless people roaring at the same time. 14th blood vein, come out. Su Ming's body trembled. The powerful feeling within his body became stronger. The 14th blood vein was quickly solidifying. By the looks of it, it would be completely manifested before long. However, after a quarter of an hour, the 14th bloodline was still struggling, as if it lacked the power to completely condense it. Su Ming could already feel the qi in his body slowing down. The heat in his body was almost completely gone. If this ended and the 14th blood vein had not manifested, he would have to wait for the next time. Su Ming's eyes flashed. Without any hesitation, he lifted his right hand and grabbed towards his side. There was a mountain spirit there. Su Ming grabbed the pill and immediately placed it in his mouth. He bit down on the pill and swallowed it. He then brought out a scattering dust and swallowed it. His body trembled furiously, and the fiery red color that had disappeared from his skin rose once again. In the span of a breath, it reached a shocking degree. The heat in his body became even crazier. The intensity of the heat was even greater than before. It reached a level that Su Ming could not bear with. 14th blood vein, come out. There was a ruthlessness in Su Ming's bones. This was something that even he did not notice, but it had been contained in every single detail of his life for a long, long time. As he growled, his body roared once again. The 14th blood vein instantly solidified and let out a strange red glow. When the 14th blood vein appeared, Su Ming did not choose to stop. He swallowed 2 mountain spirits in a row so that his power could increase in one go. During the 7 days he was quenching, he often thought about the appearance of the wings of the moon and the hidden anxiety under the elder smile. Su Ming saw it all. Even if he did not say it out loud, he understood that there was a dark cloud above the tribe. He remembered the breakthrough of the elder of Black Mountain Tribe. He remembered the elders saying that there was a traitor in the tribe and that it was not safe. Su Ming was worried. He wanted to help the elder and the tribe, but with his current power, it was obvious that it was not enough. He wanted to become stronger. He wanted to become a powerful berserker. When the 14th blood vein appeared, Su Ming circulated the qi in his body once again. As his blood circulated madly, the 15th blood vein seemed as if it was about to be forced out. After a long while, Su Ming's body trembled in pain. Yet he did not hesitate. As his blood flowed through his body, he roared and the 15th blood vein appeared. The 15 blood veins were like 15 scars on his bare upper body. As they shone with a red light, they made Su Ming look even more powerful. Yet Su Ming was not satisfied with just 15 blood veins. He continued circulating his qi, and time passed by. The 16th blood vein manifested abruptly. At that moment, the heat on his body dissipated. It was as if everything was about to end. Yet Su Ming's eyes flashed. As a cold glint appeared in his eyes, he lifted his right hand without a word and slammed it against his chest. With that one strike, a huge force surged into his body and stimulated his rapidly beating heart. 17th blood vein appear. Under the stimulation of the force, his heart erupted with even more blood. The blood flowed through his entire body, and once again, the 17th blood vein appeared on his chest. When the 17th blood vein appeared, Su Ming's body was like a flame that had been extinguished. There was no longer any heat. It was the same for his body. The strong feeling disappeared in an instant. His body felt empty. He knew that this was the result of the effects of the medicine fading away. At the same time, faint stabs of pain appeared in his body. This meant that his body had been injured due to his forceful training. Pain and injuries are nothing to a berserker, Su Ming mumbled. He could feel that the power in his body had increased by more than half. A hint of determination appeared in his eyes. He did not get up. Instead, he took out an herb from the torn beast skin robe beside him. That herb was sky stone. This item was the strongest medicinal herb he had obtained apart from the medicinal pill. Besides the portion he gave to Lei Chun, he did not use it easily. Yet at that moment, he took it out without hesitation. He wanted to increase his power as much as possible in one go. Su Ming took the herb and kept one leaf for future use. He swallowed the rest and also used the scattering dust to increase the effects of the herb. A cool feeling exploded within his body and fused with the remaining heat in his body. Cold air also appeared on Su Ming's body, making the 17 blood veins look even more distinct. Su Ming's body turned slightly green under the freezing air, but the blood in his body flowed even faster. 2 hours, 4 hours passed. When the sky outside turned white and Xiao Hong came back from playing, Su Ming was still sitting cross-legged on the ground, unmoving. Xiao Hong knew that Su Ming was training. It would lie by his side and occasionally look at him before yawning and falling asleep. The sky gradually turned from morning to noon, then from noon to dusk. Very soon it was pitch black again. Only the moonlight shone brightly on the ground amidst the falling snow. There were no longer 17 blood veins on Su Ming's body. There were 19 blood veins. The 2 extra blood veins on his arm shone with a red glow. Late at night, Su Ming's entire body glowed with a red glow that surrounded the entire cave. He slowly opened his eyes and let out a shaky breath. There was a threatening glint in his eyes. When he saw Xiao Hong snoring softly and occasionally scratching its fur while sleeping, a smile appeared on his face. He averted his gaze from Xiao Hong and instinctively lifted his head to look at the few small holes on the wall. From his position, he could see the sky and the moon outside through the holes. Su Ming slowly closed his eyes and prepared to circulate the qi in his body to soothe the pain caused by his training. Yet the moment he closed his eyes, Su Ming suddenly opened them once again. He had a vague feeling that the moon he saw through the small holes just now was a little different. Now that he looked at it again, his eyes gradually widened. There was a hint of red on the moon in the sky. Chapter 36. Su Ming was stunned. When he looked at the moon again, the red hue seemed to have disappeared. It was as if what he saw just now was just an illusion. Su Ming's expression was grave. He did not believe that he was hallucinating. He focused his gaze on the moon through the small holes and fell into deep thought. Time passed by slowly. Since Su Ming no longer circulated his qi, the red light in the cave quickly disappeared and everything returned to normal. After a long while, Su Ming frowned. Could it really be a figment of my imagination? Su Ming sighed softly. He was just about to close his eyes and ignore this matter, but the moment he closed his eyes, his pupils shrank. That's not right. He seemed to have caught hold of some thoughts, but those thoughts were vague, as if they could disappear at any moment. It was difficult to sort them out. Red moon, red moon, red, Su Ming mumbled. He lowered his head and looked at his body. The moment he saw the red moon appeared in his mind. It was as if the effects of the pill had completely worn off. His blood was circulating, and there was a red hue spreading out, illuminating the cave. His eyes gradually brightened as he thought about it. The blurry thoughts in his head also gradually became clearer. After a moment, Su Ming opened his eyes without hesitation and circulated his blood. Immediately, all 19 blood veins appeared on his body and let out a piercing red light. Not only did it cover his body in the red light, it also dyed the cave red. Su Ming stared at the moon outside the small holes. Under the red light around him, he took a deep breath. His expression became more serious, and at the same time, he gained an epiphany. At this moment, the moon that he was looking at had turned red. It was not the moon that was red. It was because the cave was filled with red light. When Su Ming looked at the moon through the red light, he naturally had the illusion that the moon had turned red. Su Ming looked at the red moon and mumbled under his breath, "My Tao is the berserker lust, and I will burn the world. With my thoughts, I will burn the heavens, and with my thoughts, I will set the heavens ablaze. If the moon of fire rises from the clouds and shines in the vast world, at that time, I will think in silence, and my blood will burn. 9 is the extreme, and 1 is the law. I will light the berserker fire and worship it 9 times, and I will gain the ability to worship the fire. Contemplate at that time, contemplate at that time." The meaning behind these words is that at the moment I see the fire moon, I will think quietly in my heart to imagine. But what do I imagine? The burning of blood and fire. 9 is the limit, 1 is the law. Ignite the berserker fire and worship 9 times, and I'll be able to worship fire. No, this sentence has nothing to do with imagination. It's the action. Su Ming frowned. At that moment, the blood in his body continued circulating, causing the red light in the area to become thicker, causing the red hue of the moon to become clearer in his eyes. Imagine. A glint suddenly appeared in Su Ming's eyes, and he felt as if there was a thunderous roar in his head. Could it be that this sentence should be read like this? If the moon of fire rises from the clouds and shines in the vast world, contemplate in silence. If that's the case, then the meaning behind this sentence is very different. It's not about imagining the moon of fire when it appears, but imagining the moon of fire appearing. Su Ming's body trembled. He had a feeling that he had grasped the main point. He took a deep breath and imagined the moon in the sky turning red in his heart. As time passed by, Su Ming repeated this image in his head again and again. Eventually, he immersed himself in it completely and forgot about the circulation of his blood. He also ignored the fact that the snow-white light in the cave had completely disappeared and returned to normal. He raised his head and stared fixedly at the bright moon outside the holes. The fantasies in his mind overlapped even more. The red moon. The burning moon. Su Ming mumbled. In his eyes, the moon was glowing red. The red became thicker, and gradually, the entire moon turned bright red. At that moment, Su Ming felt all the hairs on his body stand up. He could faintly feel that there were red threads descending from the sky from the red moon in his eyes. They floated towards him through the holes and fused with his eyes. They flowed into his body and fused with his blood. A cold feeling appeared in his body. Once it fused with his blood, it caused the qi in his body to circulate on its own. As it flowed slowly, Su Ming did not notice it. At that moment, he felt as if everything in the world had disappeared. Only the red moon was growing bigger and clearer in his eyes. The red in the moon seemed to contain a strange power. As the moonlight shone on him, it seeped into his body. Time passed by. Xiao Hong had woken up a long time ago. It stared at Su Ming not too far away. There was a puzzled look in its eyes. It lifted its head and looked at the moon through the holes. However, the moon looked the same as usual. It scratched its head, unable to understand why Su Ming was in a daze. No one noticed that at that moment, within the 5 summits of Dark Mountain, where all the wings of the moon slept, there was also a strange change happening. It was especially so in the depths of Black Flame Mountain. In the basin covered in lava, there was a giant red tree trunk. Numerous lines swam on it. Occasionally, the faces of the wings of the moon would appear. The expressions on their faces were not ferocious, nor were they sorrowful. Instead, they were filled with obsession and excitement. No one knew what they were excited about. However, from the speed at which they swam through the tree trunk, it was obvious that they were extremely excited. It was as if they were struggling to get out of the tree trunk, but were stopped by some sort of power. It was also as if they felt something. Perhaps it was a summon, perhaps it was worship, or perhaps it was feeling the Berserker tribe that had passed away for many years. Under the bubbling magma was the remains of the fire Berserker tribe from ancient times. The skeletons at the edge of the ruins were immersed in the magma, but they did not seem to have changed. However, the words Su Ming had seen once on the wall where he had pointed at were blank. There was nothing. It was not erased by someone. It was as if it had never appeared since the beginning of time. The skeleton beside him may only be bones, but at that moment, there was a hint of mockery and arrogance on its face. Perhaps it was not mockery of what happened when it died, but what happened after it died, at night, when the moon in the sky showed signs of fading away. It was as if the sun was about to rise at the break of dawn. In this dark mountain forest, there was a figure shrouded in black robes, slowly walking into the distance. That person was the person who had been in Black Mountain Tribe that day. He walked very slowly, but with every step he took, his body would seem like an illusion as he walked through countless dead trees. There's still nothing here. Where is it? The person sighed and spoke in a hoarse voice. He gradually walked into the distance and disappeared when the sun rose in the sky. Chapter 37. The night passed. When the darkness of dawn was chased away by the rays of the rising sun, when the moon in the sky turned into a crescent moon and disappeared, Su Ming, who was still in the cave within Black Flame Mountain, trembled. He slowly lowered his head, which had been lifted all this while. His eyes were filled with confusion, and even a hint of emptiness. However, when Lil Red saw this indescribable gaze, all the hair on the little monkey's body stood on end. It swiftly retreated and leaned against the wall. Terror and astonishment appeared on its face. It saw the faint shadow of the blood-red moon slowly disappearing from Su Ming's eyes. After a long while, when the barely discernible shadow of the blood-red moon completely disappeared from Su Ming's eyes, he snapped out of his daze. Xiao Hong stood by his side and stared at Su Ming blankly. A puzzled look appeared on its face. Su Ming sucked in a deep breath. To him, the entire night seemed to have only lasted for an instant. Now that he was awake, there were many things that puzzled him about the things that had happened that night. However, once he checked his body, all of these puzzlement turned into a dumbfounded look. My injuries are all healed, Su Ming mumbled. His body had been injured when he forcefully increased his strength. The injuries were not serious. Based on what he knew, he would only need to meditate for a few days to recover. However, in just one night, he was completely healed. After a long while, Su Ming took a deep breath. He lifted his head abruptly, but all he saw was the bright sun and the sky outside the holes. That was indeed a Berserker art. A Berserker art of the Fire Berserker tribe. This art must contain a lot of power. I only needed to meditate for one night, and my injuries were completely healed. Su Ming's eyes flashed. He immediately activated the qi in his body, and very soon, 19 blood veins appeared on his body. However, when the 19th blood vein appeared, a strange look appeared on Su Ming's face. He had a feeling that he still had some strength left. With a serious look on his face, Su Ming activated his qi once again. Once his qi circulated through his entire body a few times, the 20th blood vein manifested on Su Ming's chest. This scene made Su Ming widen his eyes. After a while, when he dispersed his qi, he was even more shocked by what happened during the night. His heart pounded against his chest. The powerful effects of Mountain Spirit had already shocked him. Now that he noticed the mysteriousness of the Fire Berserker art, to Su Ming, it was as if a new path had opened up for him in the future. Transcendence. Perhaps I, Su Ming, will be able to transcend and become a powerful berserker in the transcendence realm. Su Ming took a deep breath and quelled the excitement in his heart. At that moment, Xiao Hong also ran over and climbed onto Su Ming's shoulder. It widened its eyes and stared into Su Ming's eyes with a puzzled look on its face. It even lifted its hands to grab Su Ming's eyes. Su Ming laughed heartily and pushed the little monkey. After playing with it for a while, Xiao Hong seemed to have remembered something and hissed at Su Ming. It lifted its right paw and sniffed it deeply. An intoxicated look appeared on its face, and it even licked its paw a few times before placing it before Su Ming, as if asking him to sniff it as well. Su Ming was stunned. He had seen Xiao Hong's actions over the past few months and had some guesses in his head, but he felt that something was off. Now that he saw the right paw stretching towards him, he hesitated for a moment. When he saw Xiao Hong's expectant gaze, he went forward and sniffed it. A fishy smell wafted through the air. Su Ming pushed it away, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Xiao Hong immediately glared at Su Ming, as if it was dissatisfied with Su Ming pushing its right paw away. It hissed at Su Ming and ran to the side to sniff it. The intoxicated look on its face made it seem as if its right paw had grabbed something before. It didn't have this habit before. Su Ming looked at Xiao Hong's expression and was even more surprised. He made a decision in his heart. A few days passed by in the blink of an eye. During those few days, Su Ming immersed himself in the quenching process. The powerful effects of mountain spirit made his heart pound in excitement, and at the same time, he also wanted to create more. It was a pity that the failure rate for mountain spirit was very high. Su Ming had used half of the cloud gauze grass and only managed to create 2 pills. Besides quenching pills, Su Ming would often meditate during the day and circulate the blood in his veins, making his cultivation at the 3rd level of the blood solidification realm even more stable. A strong feeling filled his body. According to Su Ming's analysis, he should be able to fight against the man from Black Mountain Tribe who died to scattering blood. At night, Su Ming would give up on quenching pills. He would sit in the cave and look at the moon while imagining things in his head. However, the effects were not as miraculous as the first day. Even so, the training during the past few days allowed Su Ming to manifest 2 more blood veins. He was now a berserker with 22 blood veins. That night, Su Ming sat with his legs crossed and looked at the moon. When he imagined the moon being red, Xiao Hong, who had not left the cave for a long time, crawled up quietly. Its eyes were filled with excitement and anticipation. It sniffed its right claw and looked at Su Ming. Once it was sure that Su Ming would not notice it, it ran towards the exit. The moment Xiao Hong disappeared from the cave, Su Ming immediately opened his eyes. A smile appeared on his lips as he got up and left the cave. I'd like to see why Xiao Hong is so intoxicated. Su Ming was still a teenager. He was curious. He became even more curious when he noticed Xiao Hong's actions. With Su Ming's current level of cultivation and his 22 blood veins, his speed and agility had already reached an incredible level. In fact, if he did not want to, he would not even leave a single footprint on the snow. If he followed behind Xiao Hong would not notice him. Xiao Hong moved very quickly during the night. It rushed down the mountain, and soon it reached the foot of the mountain. Su Ming followed it with a smile on his face. However, after an hour, his smile froze and was replaced by a strange look. He saw Xiao Hong jumping around in the forest as if it had an accurate target. It moved forward with familiarity and finally stopped outside a cave in the forest. Many of the plants around the cave had already been destroyed. It was a mess. Xiao Hong walked lightly outside the cave. Its face was filled with vigilance and anticipation. After observing for a while, it rushed into the cave. Su Ming frowned when he saw this from afar. With his experience in the forest, he could tell with just one glance that there was a large beast hibernating in the cave to avoid the cold. At that moment, a furious and shrill roar came from the cave. A red figure ran out quickly, and as it ran, it let out piercing screeches. There was a smug look on its face. Su Ming could clearly see a large clump of black fur on its right claw. This is... Su Ming hesitated for a moment. Soon, the ground started trembling. A giant beast that looked like a bear came out of the cave with a roar. The beast was completely black and had long fur. Its eyes were red and filled with anger. Yet when Su Ming saw the beast, his expression became even weirder. He saw the angry beast's lower body. There was a large patch of fur there. It looked very miserable. It was clear that it was not plucked just once. It must have been plucked many times. When he remembered the thing in Xiao Hong's hand, Su Ming could not help but remember that he had sniffed it under Xiao Hong's instigation a few days ago. His eyes widened. The beast let out a shrill roar and chased after Xiao Hong in a frenzy. It was not as fast as Xiao Hong. Before long, it whimpered as if it was in despair and returned to the cave as if it was wronged. After a while, loud banging sounds came from the cave. It was clear that the beast was venting its anger. Su Ming's mind was blank. With an odd expression on his face, he turned around and chased after Xiao Hong. His speed was much faster than Xiao Hong's. Before long, he saw Xiao Hong in the distance. Xiao Hong stopped outside a forest filled with dead trees. It looked around and quickly used the black fur in its right hand to wipe its crotch. The smug look on its face was seen clearly by Su Ming, who was standing in the distance. The smug look on its face made it seem as if it had become as strong as a bear. However, no matter how he looked at it, there was an obscene look on its face. Su Ming was dumbfounded. He watched as Xiao Hong walked into the forest proudly after it was done. It opened its mouth and let out a few screeches. Soon after, Su Ming saw a group of female monkeys whose fur was not red but were rather petite. They quickly appeared from the forest and surrounded Xiao Hong. He looked at the petite monkeys, sniffing Xiao Hong's right paw. They were shocked and afraid as they looked at its crotch. Eventually, under Xiao Hong's smug expression, they went deeper into the forest with the petite female monkeys. Su Ming smiled bitterly and let out a long sigh. He understood now. Xiao Hong was using the might of a bear to attract the opposite sex. Su Ming did not know whether to laugh or cry as he quickly left the place. It was as if he was imagining the moon to be red. He kept telling himself to forget about the time he sniffed Xiao Hong's right paw under its instigation a few days ago. When he returned to the cave, Su Ming let out another long sigh. He pitied the bear that had lost a lot of fur after being harassed. No wonder Xiao Hong would only come back exhausted after a few days when it went out. After resting for a while, it would run out full of energy again. Su Ming touched his nose and forced himself not to think about it anymore. He once again immersed himself in the strange state of looking at the red moon. It was as if the red color had come with the moonlight and fused into his blood. A few days passed. On this night, Su Ming sat cross-legged and looked at the moon as usual. Yet as the moon grew brighter, the faint blood-red moon gradually appeared in Su Ming's eyes. As it shone, the blood-red moon in his left eye looked as if it was about to burn. Su Ming's body trembled. A sentence involuntarily appeared in his mind. The burning of blood. 9 is the limit. 1 is the law. Burn the berserker fire and worship it 9 times. You will be able to worship fire. Chapter 38. The burning of blood. 9 is the limit. 1 is the law. Burn the berserker fire and worship it 9 times. Then you will be able to worship fire. Su Ming mumbled unconsciously. The words kept repeating in his head, and his voice grew louder with each passing moment. Eventually, it turned into a thunderous roar that reverberated in his head. The faint shadow of the blood-red moon became clearer in Su Ming's eyes. It shone with an enchanting light as if it was burning, causing Su Ming's eyes to sting with pain. The pain was not obvious in the beginning, but as time passed by and as the moon shone on the sky, the pain became stronger. Eventually, the pain made Su Ming tremble as if he could no longer bear it. He wanted to close his eyes and stop looking at the moon. It was as if the source of the pain was not the fire, but the moonlight. Yet at the same time, he had a strong feeling that all these changes were the key for him to train in this strange berserker art. If he closed his eyes, it would mean that he had given up on training. He even had a feeling that once he gave up, he would never be able to train in this art again. The burning of blood. How do I burn it? Su Ming's eyes were filled with blood capillaries. The shadow of the crimson moon surrounded them and replaced his pupils, causing Su Ming to look terrifying at that moment. The burning shadow of the blood-red moon in his eyes seemed to have dried up all the moisture in his eyes, causing his eyes to show signs of drying up. It was as if his eyes were about to completely wither away very soon. Su Ming lifted his head and let out a roar. His expression was contorted. He circulated his blood in his body, but no matter how much it flowed, he could not alleviate the dryness in his eyes. Instead, the withering feeling became stronger. Gradually, the moon became blurry in Su Ming's eyes. If there was anyone else by Su Ming's side, then they would be able to see that Su Ming's eyes were still burning with red fire. The fire was like blood, burning fiercely. How do I burn it? How do I burn my blood? As Su Ming struggled, he could not understand the meaning behind the words that contained the strange berserker art. As a large part of his vision became blurry, he slowly closed his eyes. He knew that if he did not close his eyes, then there was a high possibility that he would never be able to see light again. Yet the moment he closed his eyes, a strange image appeared in Su Ming's mind. When he was saving Bai Ling, he saw the wings of the moon with pained and sorrowful expressions on their faces on the red tree branches in the tribe deep within the cave. The wings of the moon kept repeating the same action, biting their claws and smearing their eyes with the blood. A shudder ran through Su Ming's body. He seemed to have understood something, and at the instant he did not close his eyes completely, he opened them once again. At the same time, he lifted his right hand, placed it at the corner of his mouth, and bit down. Immediately, blood seeped out from the tip of his finger. As it dyed his finger red, he lifted his hand and smeared the blood on his eyes. Su Ming smeared the blood on his eyes. The moment he smeared the blood on his eyes, there was a roar at the center of Su Ming's brows. A cool feeling immediately appeared in his eyes. At that moment, the entire Black Flame Mountain seemed to tremble slightly. Yet strangely, not a single snowflake moved. It was as if the trembling was not the mountain itself, but the soul of the mountain. At the same time, wisps of air that could not be seen with the naked eye rose from Black Flame Mountain and gathered madly at the spot where Su Ming was sitting. Su Ming did not know what it was, but he could feel the wisps of aura instantly charging towards him and fusing into his eyes. It was as if his eyes had turned into a vortex that was sucking in the aura into them. The air that surged into his eyes was like a drizzle that extinguished the flames. As it continued coming towards him, the blur in Su Ming's vision quickly disappeared and was replaced by clarity. However, there was a blood-red glow within that clarity. Su Ming's world was dyed in the color of blood at that moment. At the same time, the burning sensation in his eyes turned into a cool feeling and disappeared. The pain in his body also disappeared at the same time. Soon after, as the wisps of strange aura surged into Su Ming's eyes, they spread through his body, through his eyes, and fused with his blood. Then, as his blood flowed through his entire body, it flowed through his veins. On Su Ming's body, 22 blood veins glowed with a blood-red light. When the light covered his entire body, the 23rd blood vein appeared. When the 23rd blood vein appeared, Su Ming's eyes glowed with a blood-red light, and the 24th blood vein appeared as well. After a long while, when the sky outside gradually brightened and the moon was about to be replaced by the sun, Su Ming stood up abruptly and ran towards the exit. In the blink of an eye, he was already standing outside. The mountain breeze moaned, causing his long hair to dance in the air. The 24 blood veins on his body looked ferocious, causing Su Ming to look incredibly enchanting. He stood there and lifted his head to look at the disappearing moon. Suddenly, he took a deep breath towards the moon. At that moment, Su Ming saw the moon shake. A ray of red moonlight fell from the sky and fell into Su Ming's eyes, disappearing in an instant. Su Ming's body trembled. The 25th blood vein appeared on his neck with a loud bang. The 4th level of the blood solidification realm. In most small tribes, those who had reached the fourth level of the blood solidification realm were highly valued. This meant that the tribe members who reached the fourth level could become members of the hunting team. This meant that the tribe member would become the core of the tribe's defense and battle force. Similarly, reaching the fourth level also meant that the berserker had reached the peak of the initial stage of the blood solidification realm. With one more step, he would enter the fifth level and become a berserker in the middle stage of the blood solidification realm. More importantly, once he reached the middle stage of the blood solidification realm, Su Ming would have a chance to cast a new berserker art. Su Ming felt a wave of power that he had never felt before. With a calm expression on his face, he looked at the gradually disappearing moon and the sky that was now filled with light. As the blood in his body flowed, wisps of cold air surged into his eyes. A large amount of this sort of presence also surged towards him from the mountain like a cloud. At that moment, he even had a strange feeling that he could control the light of the moon. With that strange feeling in his heart, Su Ming slowly lifted his hand. The moment the moon disappeared, he waved it lightly. Chapter 39. The moment Su Ming waved his right hand, the originally faded crescent moon in the sky suddenly let out a bright silver light. No one else could see the silver light. Only Su Ming could see it clearly. The silver light descended from the sky. The moment Su Ming waved his hand, he saw the sky and earth before him distort. Soon after, the moonlight that seemed to have been summoned by him from the moon shone brightly. Rumbling sounds rang in the air. A large group of mountain rocks before Su Ming split into a large amount of shrapnel and fell down. Some of the shrapnel even fell into the mountain stream. The echoes of the shrapnel lingered in the air for a long time. Su Ming widened his eyes and took a deep breath. He looked at his right hand dumbfoundedly and only reacted after a long while. He lifted his head abruptly and looked at the sky. The moon had already disappeared and the sun had risen. The entire world was enveloped in light. So, this is the fire berserker art? But this art is related to the moon, but there is no hint of fire. Why is that? Su Ming mumbled. His heart raced against his chest. The moment he summoned the power of the moonlight with his right hand, there was something strange about it that he did not understand. Yet the sharpness within it made Su Ming's heart pound. He clenched his right hand into a fist. His eyes flashed, and he threw a punch at the big rock beside him. The qi in his body circulated, and the 25 blood veins intersected with each other. The moment his fist touched the big rock, a muffled sound rang in the air. Cracks appeared on the big rock. At the same time, a strong rebound surged into Su Ming's right hand and into his body, but it was negated by the circulation of his qi. Su Ming took a step back and looked at the big rock with cracks on it. His eyes were filled with excitement. With my power at the fourth level of the blood solidification realm, I can only make this rock crack. If I cast the Spirit Devourer art and find the right beast spirit, I might be able to make this rock crumble. But this is already my full strength. Compared to that sliver of moonlight, there's still a huge difference. That sliver of moonlight is already so powerful. If there's more... Su Ming sucked in a deep breath and started laughing. He looked incredibly happy. He could feel the changes in himself and the power in his body. He also looked forward to the arrival of the moon. It's a pity that the power of the moon can only be used at night. Su Ming fell silent for a moment before he turned around and went back into the cave. For the first time in his life, Su Ming looked forward to the arrival of night. Occasionally, he would lift his head and look at the sky through the holes. He felt as if the day was passing by incredibly slowly. Gradually, the sky darkened once again. The moment moonlight shone on the ground, Su Ming quelled his excitement and looked at the moon. He let out a deep breath, and a brilliant light appeared in his eyes. From the inheritance he received from the statue of the god of berserkers, Su Ming knew clearly that once he reached the fifth level of the blood solidification realm, or even higher, he would be able to cast the two incredibly powerful berserker arts that were passed down from the middle-sized Dark Mountain tribe hundreds of years ago. Dark Blood Dust and Execution of Three Evils. Dark blood dust was formed by gathering a drop of berserker blood in his body, allowing him to instantly release a shocking amount of power. As for the execution of 3 evils, every time Su Ming thought about it, his heart would pound in excitement. Among them, the dark blood dust required at least 50 blood veins to be used. The execution of 3 evils was even more difficult. Only those who had manifested 200 blood veins would be able to use the execution of 1 evils. The 5th level of the blood solidification realm required 53 blood veins. If he wanted to become a berserker at the 6th level, he would need 109 blood veins. As for the 7th level, he would need 243 blood veins. The peak of the middle stage of the blood solidification realm was the 8th level. He would need 399 blood veins. Above the 9th level was the later stage of the blood solidification realm. From the 11th level, he would need 781 blood veins, the limit for a normal berserker. If he had more blood veins, then his power would increase and his chances of reaching the transcendence realm would also increase. Su Ming's eyes sparkled. He looked at the moon in the sky, and the anticipation in his eyes grew stronger. As he imagined the moon turning red in his head, the moon gradually turned into a red moon in his eyes, and the burning sensation in his eyes appeared once again. This time, Su Ming did not hesitate. He bit the tip of his finger and wiped the blood in his eyes. His entire body rumbled, and the strange changes that happened the day before appeared once again in Black Flame Mountain. I want to become stronger. As Su Ming mumbled, the 25 blood veins appeared in his body. His entire body glowed with a blood-red light as he absorbed the aura of the mountain from all directions. At the same time, the blood-red moon in his eyes shone brightly. He lifted his right hand once again and wiped the blood in his eyes. The Tao of Berserkers covers all directions. The remaining fire fuses with blood. With a single thought, I will burn the heavens, and with a single thought, I will burn the heavens. If the moon of fire rises from the clouds, it will shine between the heavens and the earth. At that time, I will meditate and burn my blood. 9 is the extreme. 1 is the law. Burn the berserker fire and worship it 9 times to become the master of worshipping fire. 9 is the extreme. 9 is the extreme. To me, the meaning of this sentence is to burn my blood 9 times. After Su Ming wiped his right hand across his eyes for the 2nd time, his entire body trembled. The entire Black Flame Mountain trembled. However, no one noticed the tremors. An even stronger aura of the mountain rushed into Su Ming's body, making him feel as if he was about to explode. The 25 blood veins on his body shone with a piercing light. It was as if they were alive and started twisting. At that moment, the 26th blood vein appeared on Su Ming's body. That was not the end. The 27th, the 28th, the 29th, all the way until the 33rd blood vein appeared at the same time. Su Ming's breathing quickened. His heart raced against his chest. The feeling of possessing great power made him immersed in it. It was as if he did not want to wake up, but his mind was clear. The blood-red moon in his eyes flashed. He lifted his right hand slowly and bit his 3rd finger. The blood on his finger seemed to have a strange power. Su Ming looked at the blood and slowly placed it before his eyes. He wanted to burn his blood for the 3rd time. He had a strong feeling that if he could burn his blood for the 3rd time, then his power would increase by leaps and bounds. The strength of that feeling made his body tremble. He stared at his finger. Su Ming gritted his teeth and pressed his hand against his right eye. He wiped it across his right eye gently, but the moment he did so, the entire dark mountain trembled. Black Flame Mountain was not the only one that trembled. The other 4 mountains also trembled as well. Countless birds and beasts looked at the sky in fear, not daring to move. Yet in everyone's eyes, the mountain still looked the same. Nothing much had changed. Dark Dragon Tribe did not notice it. Neither did Dark Mountain Tribe. Only Baitu, who was absorbing the blood of the wings of the moon in his body to reach the Transcendence Realm in Black Mountain Tribe, felt his heart skip a beat. When he opened his eyes, there was a hint of shock in them. He immediately got up and walked out of the house to look at the sky. However, that feeling vanished into thin air. No matter how he observed, he was unable to find the source of that shock. Besides that, the moment Su Ming attempted the third burning of blood, all the wings of the moon in the depths of the 5 summits of Dark Mountain became excited. They rushed out of the strange tree they were resting on in a frenzy, as if they wanted to search for their king, yet they were enveloped by some sort of power and could not go out. Similarly, the strange red tree in Dark Mountain was also trembling. No one could tell whether it was due to excitement or fear. In the cave, Su Ming wiped a trace of blood from his right eye. He had no choice but to stop trembling. The strong presence from Dark Mountain rushed madly into his body, causing the blood veins on his body to increase at a speed that even Su Ming found terrifying. 34, 35, 36, 42, 44, until 47. Su Ming could no longer continue. The feeling of his body about to explode became clearer. He could even hear the faint roars of the wings of the moon coming from Dark Mountain. He raised his right hand and panted heavily. His entire body was soaked in sweat. At the same time, Dark Mountain's soul disappeared, and so did the surging aura. The faint roar in his ears also disappeared, and everything returned to normal. Yet Su Ming knew that what happened just now was not normal. What a powerful berserker art! I can feel that if I complete the third burning of blood, my blood veins will increase by leaps and bounds. This is only the 3rd time. If it's the 9th time, Su Ming took a deep breath. He was afraid that he would not dare to continue training. This is only the 9th time. Based on my understanding, once I complete the 9th burning of blood, I will be able to bow towards the fire moon in the sky. After bowing 9 times, the fire berserker art will reach the heavens. Su Ming mumbled. He could feel the unbelievable power in his body. After a long while, he slowly lifted his head. A hint of determination appeared in his eyes. If I train this art with the help of the medicinal pills, there is hope for me to transcend. Su Ming clenched his fists. Chapter 40. Time passed by as Su Ming continued quenching and training. A few days later, as Su Ming meditated, Xiao Hong returned to the cave, exhausted. Even the fur on its body seemed to have lost its luster. Even though it was tired, its expression was one of reminiscence and pride. It kept sniffing its right claw and grinned like an idiot. When Xiao Hong returned, Su Ming opened his eyes slightly and cast a glance at Xiao Hong. He could not help but remember the scene he saw a few days ago, and an unnatural expression appeared on his face. Xiao Hong also noticed Su Ming's gaze. It turned around and looked at Su Ming. It immediately ran towards him and extended its right claw with pride. It looked as if it wanted Su Ming to sniff it, as if it thought that good things should be shared with everyone. Su Ming did not know whether to laugh or cry. He ignored Xiao Hong and immersed himself in his training once again. In addition to the time he spent with the elder, a month passed by in the blink of an eye. The time for him to go to Windstream Tribe, as promised by the elder, was getting closer. During this period of time, Su Ming used up all his cloud gauze grass and only managed to create 1 mountain spirit. The failure rate of creating the mountain spirit was something that made Su Ming depressed. It was a good thing that aside from mountain spirit, his training had gone smoothly. During this period of time, he had completely stabilized his cultivation at the 4th level of the blood solidification realm. He had also gained 2 more blood veins, bringing his total to 49. He had slowly begun to accept the strangeness of the fire barbarian arts. However, the further he progressed, the harder it became to manifest more blood veins. During these few days, no matter how much Su Ming trained, he could not manifest more blood veins. He knew that this was related to the fact that he could not complete the 3rd burning of his blood. Besides that, Su Ming also tried to control the moonlight when the moon appeared at night. However, the results were not obvious. It was as if he could only control a small amount of moonlight and could not increase it any further. Even if it was just a small amount of moonlight, it was incredibly sharp in Su Ming's hands. It was even more shocking than the horn. More importantly, Xiao Hong could not see that small amount of moonlight. Based on that analysis, Su Ming was certain that no one else besides him could sense it. One morning, Su Ming stood up and looked around the cave. After a moment of thought, he moved the barren cauldron to the side. He did not know how long he would need to go to Wine Stream Tribe this time. He had to make some preparations. There were countless fine ravines on the walls of the cave. They were created by the sliver of moonlight Su Ming had been controlling over the past few days. Once he was done, Su Ming walked out of the cave. Xiao Hong had woken up a long time ago. When it saw that Su Ming was about to leave, it quickly followed behind him. Once they were out of the cave, it sat on Su Ming's shoulder. It was too lazy to go down the mountain by itself. It's a pity that the mountain spirit is too difficult to refine. On the second door, there are 8 small holes under the picture of the mountain spirit. Obviously, I need to offer 8 of them. I wonder how long it will take for me to accumulate 8 mountain spirit stones while ensuring my own cultivation. What's more, the opening of the second door requires a medicinal stone called Southern Parting. I've never seen the medicinal herbs needed for this medicinal stone. Fortunately, I have the diagram that Grandpa gave me. There are some introductions inside. Su Ming stood outside the cave and looked at the rising sun in the distance. He breathed in the cold air as he mumbled to himself. Only when I have enough of these 2 medicinal stones can I open the second door. Fortunately, the last medicinal stone, called the Welcoming of Deities, doesn't require me to refine it. But the more it's like that, the more valuable it is. As Su Ming was deep in thought, Xiao Hong on his shoulder became impatient. It grabbed Su Ming's hair and screeched. Su Ming patted the little monkey's head and jumped down the mountain. The cold wind blew against his body, causing his clothes and hair to flutter. Xiao Hong also grabbed Su Ming's hair tightly as it screeched. Su Ming's laughter echoed in the air. As he landed, he grabbed the rock beside him with his right hand. Once he steadied himself, he descended once again. With his current level of cultivation, it did not take long for him to descend from Black Flame Mountain. The snow in the forest was still there. It was soft when he stepped on it. Su Ming ran into the distance. He originally intended to return to the tribe immediately, but when he reached a fork in the road, he stopped and hesitated for a moment. Xiao Hong was still sitting on Su Ming's shoulder. It seemed to find it comfortable. It kept sniffing his right paw, as if it was enjoying itself. When it saw Su Ming stopping, it was slightly surprised. The road on the right led back to the tribe. As for the road on the left, Su Ming looked in that direction. It led to Dark Dragon Tribe. It's good to take a look. Xiao Hong, have you seen Bai Ling before? All right. You haven't seen her before. Do you want me to take you to see her? Su Ming mumbled. Xiao Hong widened its eyes. It scratched the fur on its face but did not make a sound. All right. Since you want to see her, I'll take you to see her from afar. Su Ming seemed to have found a reason for himself to move forward. He smiled and patted Xiao Hong's head. When Xiao Hong looked displeased, Su Ming ran towards the road on the left. When dusk arrived, the sun in the distance shone with a light that was almost red. The setting sun was about to set. Su Ming came to the place where he bid farewell to Bai Ling. He crouched down there and could see the outline of Dark Dragon Tribe. He could see the members of Dark Dragon Tribe moving about, but he could not see Bai Ling. After a long while, Su Ming remained silent. He did not know what he was thinking. He only thought that Bai Ling was very beautiful. She was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen since he was young. He wanted to take a few more glances at her. He hesitated for a moment and sat there quietly. He did not act rashly, but looked at the sky. When the sun was about to set and it was about to turn dark, his eyes flashed. He stood up and took a few steps forward. He moved quickly, but kept his guard up. He slowly approached Dark Dragon Tribe, but he could not get too close. After all, this was not Dark Mountain Tribe. If he was discovered, he would be in danger. Even though Dark Mountain Tribe and Dark Dragon Tribe did not have a feud like Black Mountain Tribe did, they were not at peace. If they met each other in the wild, they would usually treat each other with hostility. It was even more so when Su Ming wandered around Dark Dragon Tribe. I shouldn't have done this, Su Ming mumbled as he moved forward quietly. When he was about 10,000 feet away from Dark Dragon Tribe, he stopped. Su Ming grew up in the tribe and even went to Dark Mountain alone to gather herbs when he was young. He even saw the people from Black Mountain Tribe a few times. Being cautious and alert had become an instinct as he grew up. He had seen too much blood. Even if most of the blood was from wild beasts caught by the tribe's hunting team, as a child, he had seen and heard too much of it. Besides, he had killed before. This was something that even Lei Chun had not experienced before. Therefore, even if he really wanted to take a look at Bai Ling, his subconscious instinct still made him choose to cautiously stop 10,000 feet away when the sky was about to turn dark. He squatted down and looked at Dark Dragon Tribe from afar. A resolute look appeared in his eyes. Without any hesitation, he turned around and quickly left Dark Dragon Tribe. However, the moment he took a few steps forward, goosebumps appeared all over Su Ming's body. A sense of danger that was even stronger than the one he felt when he met the two berserkers from Black Mountain Tribe. As he jumped, he twisted his body without hesitation. He wrapped his hands around his head and curled his body into a ball. He held Xiao Hong in his arms and froze in midair. At that moment, a sharp whistling sound pierced through the air. A giant spear that was about 30 feet long shot through the wooden fence of Dark Dragon Tribe like a bolt of lightning. It shot past Su Ming and landed on the ground with a loud bang, causing the ground to tremble and the snowflakes to explode. A wave of air spread out in all directions. Fortunately, Su Ming's alertness allowed him to avoid it. As the wave of air spread out, he landed on the ground and ran forward with all his might. Trying to run? A cold snort came from afar. A young man wearing a sackcloth with long hair and a fierce look in his eyes was chasing after Su Ming. Su Ming turned his head back and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. Chapter 41. The young man appeared to be around 18 or 19 years old. His body was extremely robust, comparable to Lei Chen's. He held a long spear in his hand. Although the spear was only 5 feet long, it was completely black. Furthermore, there was a faint, shockingly cold aura being emitted from it. In fact, there was even a bit of golden light at the tip of the spear. More importantly, the spear was not made of stone. It was made of something Su Ming had never seen before. He cast it a glance from the distance, and when his eyes landed on the spear, he immediately felt his heart thump in fear. It was familiar. It was a very familiar feeling. He did not know where the familiarity came from. However, the sense of danger within the familiarity made Su Ming's mind disappear. The only thing left in his mind was his instinctive calmness. This person isn't wearing beast skins. He's wearing sackcloth. This kind of clothing. This person's position in Dark Dragon Tribe is not low. I don't regret getting close to Dark Dragon Tribe. Su Ming's eyes flashed as he gave himself an answer. I didn't get within 10,000 feet of them. According to the rules of the tribe, it's not considered hostile if there are 3 people within 10,000 feet. I don't have any ill intentions either. I just have a friend from Dark Dragon Tribe and wanted to meet him. Su Ming charged forward. With his speed as a 4th-level berserker of the blood solidification realm, it was as if he was sticking to the snow. He did not leave a single trace behind. Oh, if that's the case, then he's not really an enemy. Don't run anymore. Stop and follow me back to the tribe. Once we find out the truth, we'll let the elder decide. There was a cold glint in the young man's eyes as he spoke slowly. However, he did not slow down. Instead, he increased his speed as he stared at Su Ming, as if he was waiting for Su Ming to hesitate. I'm an outsider. How can I enter Dark Dragon Tribe as I please? Su Ming did not stop as he spoke with a smile. That makes sense. Then what's the name of the person you know? The young man's expression remained the same, but he narrowed his eyes as he spoke. I don't know her name. I only know that she's wearing white and she's very beautiful. As Su Ming spoke, he turned his head back to look. He saw a flash of murderous intent in the young man's eyes when he heard this. He immediately understood what was going on. Previously, he had been thinking that with his level of cultivation, he would not have shot out that terrifying spear even if he had attracted the attention of the Dark Dragon Tribe, if he had not come within 10,000 feet of them. There had to be a reason for all of this, and the fact that the young man, who clearly had a noble status, had chased after him alone made a guess appear in Su Ming's heart. It really is him. The young man replied to Su Ming with a cold harumph. He took a huge step forward, and as he chased after Su Ming, he lifted his right hand. Immediately, a large amount of black smoke spread out. As it spread out, it surrounded the long spear behind the young man. Once it did so, a piercing sound immediately reverberated in the air, and the long spear started floating above the young man's head due to the black smoke. Su Ming's pupils shrank. This was a berserker art. The presence of qi from the young man's body also clearly showed how strong his power was. It was slightly higher than Su Ming's. By the looks of it, he seemed to be at the 5th level of the blood solidification realm. However, it was clear that he had only reached that level recently, as he only had a few blood veins manifested. However, since he had a berserker vessel, it was different. We'll meet again after I die. There was a distance of 7,000 feet between the young man and Su Ming. As the two of them continued running, they were already far away from Dark Dragon Tribe. The only person chasing after them was the young man. However, as the long spear was surrounded by the black fog and floated in the air, the sense of danger grew stronger within Su Ming's body. As the young man spoke, killing intent appeared in his eyes, and he pointed his right hand at Su Ming. Immediately, the long spear surrounded by the black fog charged towards Su Ming with a piercing whistle. As it moved forward, the golden light in front of the long spear shone brightly, as if it had broken through the air. It closed in on Su Ming at an unimaginable speed, and in an instant, it was less than 3,000 feet away from Su Ming. A berserker vessel. Su Ming's pupils shrank. He recognized the weapon. 49 blood veins manifested in his body at the same time and circulated rapidly, causing the qi within Su Ming's body to erupt. Su Ming's speed and agility reached its peak. The moment the long spear closed in on him, Su Ming crouched down. The wind howled, and the long spear flew past 7 inches away from his head. It landed on the ground with a loud bang. The power of that attack was about the same as the spear he threw from Dark Dragon Tribe. If it was a normal berserker at the 4th level of the blood solidification realm, it would have been difficult for him to avoid the attack. However, Su Ming's forte was speed and agility. Once he dodged the attack, he did not even look at the long spear that was stuck in the ground. There was a cold glint in his eyes as he ran into the distance. Su Ming did not need to think too much about whether he should take the long spear away. The beast skin scroll mentioned that only those who had reached the Transcendence realm could make a berserker vessel acknowledge them as their master. Those who had not transcended could not do it. However, the young man had just thrown it out as if it could be easily taken away. It was strange. There was definitely something strange about it. At this moment, the sky was not far from nightfall. Very soon, the young man arrived at the spot where the long spear had pierced at full speed. There was a cold glint in his eyes. He let out a harumph, but he frowned slightly. As the son of the tribe leader of Dark Dragon Tribe, Sikong might not be the strongest among the younger generation in the tribe, but he was still extraordinary. He was at the 5th level of the blood solidification realm and had a berserker vessel. It was easy for him to kill a berserker at the 4th level of the blood solidification realm. Yet now, the young man had dodged the attack. This made him wary, and he also noticed the young man's cautiousness. It's a pity. If he really wanted to take my berserker vessel, he would have died a long time ago. Sikong hesitated for a moment, but he seemed to have remembered something. He carefully picked up the long spear and chased after Su Ming once again. Su Ming ran like the wind in the forest. His speed became faster and faster, but Sikong continued chasing after him. The long spear that came whistling through the air made it impossible for Su Ming to widen the distance between them. He maintained a distance of thousands of feet between them as he ran deeper into the forest. In truth, if Su Ming really wanted to escape, with his speed and his understanding of the forest, it would not be difficult for him to do so. However, he did not have the thought of widening the distance between them. This was the second time he saw a berserker vessel. Since he had experienced it himself, he had a strong urge towards the berserker vessel. He wanted it. As he ran, he would occasionally pay attention to the sky. When he saw the sky gradually darkening and the moon appearing, Su Ming's eyes sparkled. Berserker vessels are not ordinary items. He used them very simply, so he must have a backup plan. Now that I can't catch up to him, if I were him, I would also consider increasing the strength of the Berserker vessel. But judging by how cautious he must have paid a price for using this backup plan. I wonder just what the true power of the Berserker vessel is like. Su Ming made his judgment. As expected, Si Kong became frustrated as he chased after Su Ming. He did not expect Su Ming to be so agile. The sky was getting dark, and they were too far away from the tribe. Besides, he left secretly and did not want too many people to know about it. If he returned late, it would be hard for him to explain himself. Si Kong gritted his teeth and grabbed at the air with his right hand. For the first time, he held the long spear in his hand, surrounded by black mist. At that moment, Su Ming, who was thousands of feet away, suddenly spoke. "Do you really want to kill me by chasing after me like this? There's no grudge between us. Even if you want to kill me, you should at least give me a reason. Why are you spouting so much nonsense? You trespassed in a dark dragon tribe, so I can kill all the tribe members. If I kill you, then even if Dark Mountain Tribe wants to pursue this matter, you'll only have yourself to blame." Si Kong laughed coldly. As he chased after Su Ming, he tightened his grip on the long spear. A cold feeling flowed into his arm through the long spear. Si Kong's face was dark. He let out a cold harumph and lifted the long spear with his right hand. Immediately, there seemed to be numerous roars coming from the forest around them. A large amount of black mist quickly spread out from the long spear and surrounded the spear, causing the spear to look like a black dragon. The black dragon had numerous claws and long whiskers. It looked incredibly ferocious. "I don't care who you are. You will die today." Si Kong laughed ferociously. His face was slightly pale. It was clear that using the power of the long spear was a huge burden on him. He held the long spear and was about to throw it towards Su Ming when Su Ming suddenly spoke. "It's because I saved Bai Ling, isn't it?" Su Ming suddenly spoke. When Si Kong heard this name, he paused for a moment. However, the instant he paused, he saw the person in front of him suddenly stop and turn around to look at him. He also raised his right hand and waved it in Si Kong's direction. A sense of danger that he had never felt before rose in Si Kong's heart. His pupils shrank and his expression changed. He was about to throw the long spear in his hand when his body trembled. It was as if there was a gust of wind blowing against his face and a piercing ray of light. He looked at Su Ming, who was standing before him, and saw the shadow of the blood-red moon in his eyes. The shadow of the blood-red moon had become the only thing he could see. His entire body was suddenly in pain, and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with confusion, bewilderment, and disbelief. His body trembled, and he fell on the snow. As he fell, the long spear that had turned into a black dragon, before he could throw it, gradually lost all of its black mist and turned back into a normal object that fell by the side. Fresh blood seeped out of his body, soaking into the snow. A silver line could be faintly seen winding around his body, sinking deep into his flesh. It was as if with just a little more force, his entire body would be torn to pieces. He was not dead. He was still breathing. He had just fainted due to the sudden pain. Su Ming's heart pounded against his chest. He looked at the long spear with fear lingering in his heart. The moment Si Kong had used the spear had made Su Ming feel as if he was about to die. When you're fighting against someone, you can't be distracted. You can't hesitate. If you can kill someone with the fastest speed possible, you can't hesitate and only use it at the last moment. Su Ming mumbled and remembered this. He has a berserker vessel. I won this battle by sheer luck. Su Ming crouched down and looked at the unconscious Si Kong. After a moment of hesitation, he bandaged his wounds. He did not want Si Kong to die. He did not want to bring trouble to the tribe. Based on his judgment, Si Kong would wake up soon. Then, with a fanatical look in his eyes, he looked at the long black spear by his side. He looked at it carefully and gradually found some clues. There were many small spikes on the long spear that would be difficult to see unless he paid close attention. Su Ming looked at it for a while before he carefully held the only part of the spear that had no spikes and quickly left. Chapter 42. However, Not long after Su Ming left, he rushed back and stood beside the unconscious Si Kong. He took a few steps forward hesitantly and lifted his head to look at the sky. The moonlight in the sky was gentle as it shone on the ground. It's not right to just take away such a valuable berserker vessel. If I don't give a proper explanation, Dark Dragon Tribe might take it away anytime they want. They might even accuse me of stealing the treasure. Should I kill him or not? Su Ming fell into silence for a while. He looked at Si Kong and made his decision. He took out a few herbs from his bosom and crushed them. He smeared the juice on Si Kong's mouth a few times and then squatted down beside Si Kong. He patted Si Kong's head with his left hand, as if he wanted to wake him up. Not long after, Si Kong's body twitched and he opened his eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, his vision was a little blurry, but Su Ming's smiling face was still in the midst of his blurry vision. Si Kong was stunned for a moment and immediately widened his eyes. His pupils shrank, and the confusion and disbelief from what he saw just now remained. His mind was blank. It was as if he saw something before he fainted, but at the same time, it was as if he did not see anything at all. It was so blurry that he felt as if he was in a state of confusion. Yet the moment he was about to move, the long black spear in Su Ming's right hand abruptly turned into an arc and landed 3 inches away from Si Kong's throat. It was as if the spear could pierce through Si Kong's throat and kill him on the spot. "Don't move." The golden glow at the tip of the spear was like a ray of light that could take his life. It made Si Kong's body tremble. He looked at Su Ming with fear and shock. What? What are you doing?" "I am the son of the tribe leader of Dark Dragon Tribe. If you kill me, Dark Dragon Tribe will not forgive you. I know you're from Dark Mountain Tribe. If you kill me, Dark Mountain Tribe will not let you live." Even now, he still did not understand how he had lost. All he could feel was that the young man had waved his hand, and he had fainted from the intense pain. The more he could not imagine what had happened, the more mysterious he felt about the smiling young man. That mysterious feeling turned into fear, especially when the spear was pressed against his throat. He was so afraid that he instinctively took a few steps back. However, the instant he moved back, he immediately felt a bitter taste in his mouth. He subconsciously licked his lips, and the bitter taste became even stronger, causing his face to instantly turn pale. A bad feeling rose in his heart, and a look of terror appeared on his face. He raised his hand to wipe the corner of his mouth, and his hand was stained with some brown juice. What did you feed me?" "It's nothing. It's just a normal herb. It's slightly poisonous." Su Ming smiled mysteriously and teased. Si Kong's eyes were filled with despair when he heard this, and his body started to tremble. The bitter taste in his mouth was getting stronger, and he even had the illusion that his tongue was going numb. "I don't believe that you dare kill me." Si Kong lifted his head and glared at Su Ming. "It's up to you whether you believe me or not. If you don't believe me, there's nothing I can do. But I have the antidote. So you're the son of the tribe leader of Dark Dragon Tribe? What's your name?" Su Ming was feeling a little guilty, but the more guilty he was, the less he would show it on his face. He smiled as he spoke. I'm Si Kong. You can't kill me. It'll bring trouble to your tribe." Si Kong's expression was fierce, but he was actually very nervous. He felt that his tongue was going numb, and even his chest was hurting. Besides, he could not find any clues from Su Ming's expression, which made him even more afraid. "Si Kong, why don't I discuss something with you?" Su Ming lifted his head and looked at the moon as he spoke slowly. Si Kong's face was pale. He could not hide the fear in his eyes, and it grew stronger. He immediately nodded his head. "I've taken a fancy to that stupid spear of yours. Let's talk about it. Why don't you sell it to me? I'll buy it for 5,000 stone coins." Su Ming blinked and looked at Si Kong expectantly. Si Kong was stunned. He looked at the long spear held tightly in Su Ming's right hand, and the tip of the spear pointed at his throat. There was no way he would dare to disagree. The bitter taste in his mouth, and the fact that he had chased after Su Ming just now made him think that Su Ming must have fed him some sort of poisonous herb. He wanted to bet that the person before him would not dare to kill him. After all, he had a noble status. If he died, it would definitely cause a war between the two tribes for revenge. He could even bet that even if the long spear was taken away by Su Ming, he still had a lot of ways to ask his father to get this treasure back for him. Yet now, the bitter taste in his mouth made him not dare to take the gamble. He was afraid that if it was especially so since his head was hurting from the slap. Kong hesitated for a moment before he quickly nodded his head. Su Ming grinned happily and tore off a large part of Kong's clothes. That action made Kong's heart skip a beat. His pale face became even paler. Since it's a trade, then let's write a proof. Let's write it like this. I, Kong, lack stone coins and will sell this spear for 5,000 stone coins. As Su Ming spoke, he suddenly hesitated and shook his head. No. Let's write it like this. I, Kong, as the son of the tribe leader of Dark Dragon Tribe, have an emergency and will borrow 5,000 stone coins from Dark Mountain Tribe for 10 years. I will use this berserker vessel as a pledge. I promise that after 10 years, I will return 10,000 stone coins before I can take back the spear. I will not return the spear before then. If I break my promise, then I will be punished by the statue of the god of berserkers. Once Su Ming finished speaking, he looked at Kong. Kong listened to Su Ming's words, especially the last sentence. His face was filled with misery. Just as he was hesitating, he saw Su Ming take out an herb he had never seen before from his bosom. This is the antidote. Kong stared at the herb and gritted his teeth. He bit his finger and squeezed out his blood before writing on the sackcloth. Very soon, he finished writing the entire sentence. Su Ming snatched the sackcloth away and looked at it carefully. Excitement appeared in his eyes. He carefully blew on it a few times, and once the blood on it dried up, he folded it up and patted it in his bosom, then looked at Kong with a smile. Kong, remember this. If you owe money, you must pay it back. I'll only wait for you for 10 years. A cunning look appeared in Su Ming's eyes. Once he put down the herb, he ran into the distance. Kong was left behind on the snow with a bitter expression on his face. He quickly picked up the herb. After a moment of hesitation, he did not dare to eat it. Instead, he quickly got up and ran back to his tribe. Once he left, a blurry figure suddenly appeared out of thin air on the quiet snow. It was an old woman with a dark expression on her face. She held a gigantic bone staff in her hands. There was a human skull embedded on the bone staff, emitting a dim light. Is that the baby from all those years ago? What berserker art did he use? Even I can't tell. I've never seen it before. The old woman looked at the direction where Su Ming left. Her eyes flashed as if she was deep in thought. After a long while, she turned around and walked back to Dark Dragon Tribe, slowly disappearing from the snow. Su Ming ran through the forest. Occasionally, he would look at the long spear in his hands and laugh foolishly. He seemed to be in love with it. Even Xiao Hong, who was on his shoulder, kept sizing up the long spear and letting out roars. It could feel that there was an incredibly powerful force contained within the spear. Stop me from going to see Bai Ling. By the looks of it, he must like Bai Ling. If that's the case, then there should be quite a number of people in Dark Dragon Tribe who know that I saved Bai Ling. Su Ming stopped, and a pensive look appeared in his eyes. I wonder how much Bai Ling told them. If she told them everything, then my cave for quenching herbs won't be safe anymore. Su Ming suddenly felt agitated. He frowned and thought about it for a long time. Then, with a heavy heart, he moved forward silently in the forest at night. Xiao Hong blinked. When it saw that Su Ming seemed to be troubled, it rolled its eyes and seemed to have thought of something. A look of understanding appeared on its face. It grinned and leapt from Su Ming's shoulder. With a few flashes, it disappeared into the forest. Remember, don't go back to Black Flame Mountain. Don't go back to the cave. Su Ming looked at it and quickly shouted. The forest was Xiao Hong's home. Su Ming was not worried that it would run into danger. He was not too far away from its tribe either. As he moved forward, Su Ming forced himself to stop thinking about the things that were bothering him. Instead, he focused and ran towards the tribe. When night fell and the moon was at its brightest, Su Ming saw some bonfires in the tribe from afar. He was just about to leave the forest when he heard rustling sounds behind him. Su Ming turned around and saw Xiao Hong chasing after him, with an excited look on its face. It held a large clump of black fur in its hand. Once it caught up to Su Ming, it immediately forced the fur into his hands, who had a strange expression on his face. Then it took a few steps back and pointed at the clump of fur, then pointed at its own abdomen. It made a few strange gestures, as if it was teaching Su Ming how to use the fur. It patted its chest again and let out a few roars with a proud look on its face. It was as if it was telling Su Ming that the effect of the fur was. Su Ming looked at Xiao Hong and laughed loudly. When Xiao Hong saw that Su Ming was no longer frowning, it grinned as well. It seemed to think that its guess was correct. Su Ming was worried about this. Xiao Hong. Su Ming crouched down and waved at the little monkey. The little monkey immediately ran towards him. Su Ming looked at Xiao Hong with a gentle look in his eyes. He patted its fur lightly, and a warm feeling rose in his heart. When I'm not here, remember not to go back to Black Flame Mountain. Don't go back to the cave. Go somewhere else. When I come back, I'll go find you. Also, don't think that the medicinal pills I gave you taste bad. You have to eat one every day along with the herbs I taught you. You have to remember this, Su Ming said softly with a smile. He cast a glance at Xiao Hong, then got up and walked towards the tribe. Chapter 43. On the third morning after Su Ming returned to the tribe, the group gathered at the center of the tribe where the Berserker's awakening was held with the Elder as their leader. The Elder was still dressed in his coarse robes. His white hair was braided into many braids, and he looked to be in good spirits. His gaze fell on Bei Ling, Lei Chun, Su Ming, and a girl who was the same age as Su Ming. The girl's name was Wu La. She was found to have a berserker body during the Berserker's awakening. A few months had passed, and she had reached the peak of the second level of the blood solidification realm. She could manifest her 11th blood vein at any time and become a berserker at the third level of the blood solidification realm. There were two other people standing behind the Elder. One of them was the head of the guards in the tribe, who was also Bei Ling's father. His strong body was like an iron tower, and there was gentleness in his bright eyes. The other person was the chief of the hunting team, Shan Hen, who had a cold expression on his face and seemed to be a man of few words. The bee skin he wore made him look even more valiant. He had never liked to talk much, but most of the berserkers in the tribe respected him greatly. Besides, his hunting team was the main guardian of the tribe and the main source of food, which was why he had a very high position in the tribe. Dark Mountain Tribe is small and cannot compare to Winestream Tribe. That is why we have to pay tribute to Winestream Tribe every few years as a form of respect. I did not go in the past, but this year, I will go personally. Besides Dark Mountain Tribe, Dark Dragon Tribe, Black Mountain Tribe, and a few other smaller tribes that are further away will also gather in Windstream Tribe. That is why this trip is a test for all of you. You will have to face many of your peers from other tribes. Whether or not you can stand out and not bring shame to Dark Mountain Tribe's name will depend on you. I chose all of you because you are the best of the best in Dark Mountain Tribe. If you can gain some knowledge, it will be of great help to you in the future. Among you, Bei Ling has participated twice. He knows some of the details. You can ask him, the Elder said slowly. His hoarse voice echoed in the air. Bei Ling agreed in a low voice. His gaze fell on Lei Chun, then on the girl called Wu La. Finally, he looked at Su Ming by the side and frowned. Elder, will this trip be the same as the previous two trips? Will there be a test? Bei Ling hesitated for a moment before he asked the Elder respectfully. When he saw the Elder nodding his head, a glint appeared in Bei Ling's eyes, and he pointed at Su Ming. Elder, I don't think Su Ming should go. He's not a berserker. Even if he goes, he won't be of any help. It's better to give the spot to the other tribe members. The moment Bei Ling's words left his mouth, Lei Chun, who was by his side, immediately looked hostile. He took a few steps forward and shouted, I can't go if I'm not a berserker? Bei Ling, what do you mean by this? The girl called Wu La had a calm expression on her face. She swept her gaze past the silent Su Ming, and a hint of disdain appeared in her eyes, but she did not speak to join the conversation. Elder, We can only bring 4 people from the younger generation to participate in the pilgrimage. In the previous tests, I was the only one from Dark Mountain Tribe who was able to get into the top 50. This year, Lei Chun is here. Perhaps he can get in as well. Even Wu La might not have a high level of cultivation, but since she managed to flash 9 times during the Berserker's Awakening, she might be able to get into the top 100. Such a result was much better than in previous years. Wouldn't it be even better if another person could enter the top 100? This Su Ming is just wasting his spot, Bei Ling said calmly. He did not even look at Lei Chun, who was glaring at him. Su Ming won't be joining the test. I'll bring him there. I have my own plans, the elder said slowly. Bei Ling wanted to say something else, but the head of the guard standing behind the elder glared at him, causing Bei Ling to swallow his words. Bei Ling had always been afraid of his father since he was young. All right, we don't have much time. Let's go. The elder lifted his right hand and seized the air in the direction of the clear sky. Immediately, thunder roared in the sky and shook the entire area. The white clouds in the sky immediately turned black. At the same time, a berserker mark formed by numerous blood veins appeared clearly on the elder's face. It was a dark python. Once the berserker mark appeared, the clouds in the sky that had turned black immediately looked as if there was a pair of invisible hands moving around them. In an instant, they gathered together and turned into a gigantic, ferocious, dark python that was several hundreds of feet long. This scene shocked Lei Chun and Wu La. They were stunned. As for Bei Ling, he could still maintain his composure and force himself to remain cool. Su Ming stood by the side and looked at the giant dark python. As he took a deep breath, desire appeared in his eyes. The head of the guards, who was standing behind the elder, looked at the giant python with a hint of reverence in his eyes. As for Shan Hen, when he looked at the giant python, a hint of fanaticism flashed in his eyes. When the python transformed, even the scales on its body could be seen clearly. An incredibly powerful presence spread out from its body. The python swung its head. There was originally a ferocious look in its red eyes, but at that moment, that ferociousness slowly disappeared and turned into gentleness. It descended from midair and lowered its head, lying obediently by the elder's side. The elder lifted his foot and walked onto the python's head. Come on up. Bei Ling was the first to leap onto the python's back. Once he sat down cross-legged, Lei Chun and Wu La followed suit. Su Ming hesitated for a moment before he jumped onto the python's back as well. He was just about to take a few steps back to sit with Lei Chun when the elder's voice traveled into his ears. Su Ming, come to my side. The elder's voice was stern. Su Ming's face fell as he went to the elder's side. The moment he sat down, he saw the elder glaring at him. Elder, I was wrong. I was really wrong, Su Ming quickly whispered. The elder ignored him. He waited for the head of the guards and Shan Hen to get onto the dark python before he swung his right hand. The dark python let out a roar towards the sky and flew up into the clouds. The tribe beneath them became smaller and smaller. Eventually, it became a small dot. As the dark python flew up, the wind howled like thunder. Su Ming's face immediately turned pale. It was the same for Lei Chun and the others. However, at that moment, the head of the guards and the leader of the hunters stood in the middle and tail of the dark python to protect Bei Ling and the other two. As for Su Ming, his breathing quickened in the wind. Very soon, a gentle force enveloped him. It was the elder's might that allowed Su Ming to withstand the discomfort he felt when he was in the sky for the first time. You know that you were wrong? What did you do wrong? It was La Su from Dark Dragon Tribe who borrowed 5,000 stone coins from you as a pawn for his spear. The wind howled around them, but the elder's words fell clearly into Su Ming's ears. With the pressure from the elder's chi, no one else on the dark python besides the two of them could hear what he said. This, Su Ming's face was filled with embarrassment. When he returned to the tribe, he excitedly went to tell the elder about it. He did not expect that the elder's face would immediately darken and he would lecture him. He even took away the long spear, causing Su Ming to sigh when he returned to his house. He did not know what he did wrong. Elder, I was wrong. I shouldn't have taken Si Kong's berserker vessel. I shouldn't have been greedy. Su Ming's face was bitter as he observed the elder's expression and spoke carefully. I shouldn't have let him write that letter. Elder, I know I was wrong. Su Ming looked at the elder with puppy eyes. Oh, that's all? There's nothing else. Think again. What did you do wrong? The elder looked at Su Ming and spoke slowly. Su Ming was stunned. He scratched his head instinctively and thought about the elder's words. There seemed to be some other meaning to them. Did he make other mistakes besides these? Su Ming frowned and thought about it seriously for a while. Suddenly, a cold glint appeared in his eyes, and he lifted his head. Elder, I know now. I should have killed him and gotten rid of his body before I took the berserker vessel. When he heard Su Ming's words, the elder's pupil shrank. He looked at Su Ming with a dumbfounded expression. It was as if he was not looking at the boy before him, but was looking at him with a meaning that Su Ming did not understand. Oh, why do you think that's your mistake? And why did you want to kill him? The elder looked at Su Ming and asked slowly. Because he wanted to kill me. Elder, you don't know this. If he really wanted to kill me, if I wasn't careful, you wouldn't have been able to see me. But I couldn't bear to do it. I thought that if I really killed him, it would bring trouble to the tribe. Su Ming remembered what happened a few days ago, and his heart was still filled with fear. After a moment of hesitation, he explained himself in a low voice. You're right, Su Ming. You must remember this. If you run into people who want to kill you in the future, you must kill them before they're in danger. The elder closed his eyes. After a long while, he opened them slowly. There was kindness in his eyes as he looked at Su Ming. But this is not the mistake I mentioned. Think again. Is there anything else you haven't thought about? Killing is easy. But how can you ensure your own safety after you kill someone? How can you find a way out from a dead end when you're in danger? The elder looked at Su Ming and asked softly. Su Ming scratched his head. He was still a teenager. Even if he performed well, he was still a teenager. He was slightly confused by the elder's words, but he still did not understand them. Think about it. Don't give me an answer in a hurry. Tell me when you understand. You must learn to think and learn to think. The elder closed his eyes. This was something that the elder would often do during the years Su Ming was growing up. The elder's teachings played a key role in Su Ming's growth. Su Ming was deep in thought as he recalled everything that happened that day. From the time he was attacked by the long spear outside Dark Dragon Tribe to Si Kong chasing after him, and finally, time passed by slowly. Very soon, an hour had passed by. When they were only halfway to Winestream Tribe, a strong gust of wind blew towards them from afar, causing the dark python to tremble. The people on it also trembled. As Su Ming's body trembled, he felt as if a bolt of lightning had struck his mind. Elder, I understand, Su Ming mumbled. His back was drenched in cold sweat. Chapter 44. Oh, what do you know? The elder opened his eyes and looked at Su Ming. I can't kill Si Kong. With his status, even if he's the tribe leader's son, he can't activate the power of the spear that protects the tribe. More importantly, he can't hide from the entire Dark Dragon Tribe and chase after me alone. The more Su Ming spoke, the more shocked he became. Cold sweat broke out on his body. It might seem like he's the only one chasing after me, but in truth, Su Ming's pupil shrank. In truth, the elder and tribe leader of Dark Dragon Tribe probably know that he's chasing after me. Yet they didn't stop him. They just let it happen. Besides, they might have been following behind me and witnessed my fight against Si Kong. Su Ming took a deep breath. He was not afraid of anything but the power of the moon being seen by the elder. The more he analyzed the situation, the more shocked he became. It was as if the real picture was being unfurled before him. Soon, Su Ming frowned. His eyes were filled with confusion. You don't understand why the elder or tribe leader of Dark Dragon Tribe let you take the spear so easily, right? The elder spoke calmly, pointing out the biggest question in Su Ming's mind. Su Ming did not speak. He was deep in thought. After a while, he looked at the vast land in the distance and spoke slowly. The person following behind Si Kong and me can't be the tribe leader of Dark Dragon Tribe. If he saw Kong injured, he wouldn't have stopped himself. I think the person following behind us should be the Elder of Dark Dragon Tribe, but I still don't understand why the Elder of Dark Dragon Tribe let me take the Berserker Vessel Spear. That's right. The person following behind you must be the Elder of Dark Dragon Tribe, Lei Su. The Elder's eyes shone with praise. Your analysis is correct. If the tribe leader of Dark Dragon Tribe was following you, he wouldn't just watch you bully his son. As for your question, I can answer it for you. It might seem like they're chasing after you, but in truth, Dark Dragon Tribe won't kill you. After all, you saved Bai Ling. If they return our kindness with enmity, then they will definitely anger Dark Mountain Tribe. They won't do that during such a crucial time. The Elder's eyes shone with wisdom as he analyzed the situation for Su Ming. Are they trying to intimidate me? Understanding appeared on Su Ming's face, but it soon turned into vexation. I'm trying to intimidate you, a fellow who covets the tribe's lady. I'm trying to scare you away so that you won't dare to go near the Dark Dragon Tribe in the future. Sikong Ing did not know about this. His intention to kill was real, and he must have been interested in Bai Ling. The barbarian elder of Dark Dragon Tribe had forced him to use his anger. If you were no match for her, the most you would do is to be injured. She would then secretly attack you and make it look as if you were escaping from death. You're still too young. You don't know what's going on. If it was me, I wouldn't have run. I would have gone straight to Dark Dragon Tribe and looked for the girl you like right in front of them. You save her life, and you're also my child. Do you think they can hurt you so easily? The elder smiled and patted Su Ming's head. Su Ming was stunned for a moment. A look of regret appeared on his face. This might be a test from Dark Dragon Tribe. After all, the girl you like is Xian Ying's granddaughter. There was a smile on the elder's face as he looked at Su Ming. Elder, the elder of Dark Dragon Tribe is too cunning. Su Ming's face was bitter. After hearing the elder's words, he finally understood what was going on. Don't be disheartened. Besides not being able to see through their intentions, you did well. I presume that Lei Su never expected that not only did you not fall into a sorry state from Sikong's pursuit, you even subdued Sikong. As for why Xian Ying let you take away the Berserker vessel, the elder's eyes flashed. She saw that she didn't manage to scare you away, so she let you take it on purpose. She wanted to tell me that you saved Bai Ling, and you'll pay for it with this spear. Dark Dragon Tribe is different from us, especially Lei Su. She's not skilled in Berserker arts. She's skilled in creating Berserker vessels. They're not real Berserker vessels. They're just replicas. For example, the spear you got is an imitation Berserker vessel. It's an imitation of one of the 3 great Berserker vessels in Dark Mountain Tribe, the Bloodscale Spear. The elder lifted his right hand and patted Su Ming's arm. Immediately, Su Ming felt a cold sensation seeping into his arm. Very soon, a black line appeared on his right arm. I've already tidied up this spear for you, said the elder with a smile. I've made some changes to it, turning the black dragon into a black eagle. It can fuse with your body, and when you need it, all you have to do is think about it. Su Ming looked at the black line on his right arm. He hesitated for a moment and was about to speak. I know what you want to say. Let me ask you, now that you've taken the Berserker vessel from Dark Dragon Tribe to pay for saving Bai Ling, what are your thoughts on this? Are you going to return the spear in exchange for a chance to get to know the girl? Or are you going to keep the spear and never see the girl again? The elder asked with a smile. Su Ming fell silent for a moment and suddenly smiled. This spear was pawned by Kong with 5,000 stone coins. Of course I can't return it. As for Bai Ling, I'm her savior. Su Ming blinked. The elder laughed and patted Su Ming's head. His eyes were filled with praise. Bai Ling sat cross-legged in the middle of the giant dark python's body. He looked at the elder and Su Ming's backs. Even though he could not hear what they were talking about, when he saw the elder smile and Su Ming smile, Bai Ling lowered his head. A hint of jealousy flashed briefly in his eyes. Su Ming, if you were a berserker, I wouldn't have minded. But when you went through your first awakening, you didn't even have a berserker body. Why does IXIN like you when you're just a normal person? More importantly, why does the elder treat you so well? Is it because you're a child the elder picked up? You're not related by blood, and I'm the hope of the tribe. But the elder has never smiled at me. Even my father is the same. He always says that you have the potential to become the head of the guards. Su Ming, if it wasn't for you, Chenexi and my father, and even the elder would not treat me like this. Su Ming, you always thought that I was cold towards you because of Chenexi. You always wanted to explain, but you don't know that I don't want to listen to your explanations. You're just a child we picked up. You're not a member of Dark Mountain Tribe. You don't even look like a berserker. What right do you have to explain to me? What right do you have to make me waste my time listening to your explanations? Bei Ling's breathing quickened. He only calmed down after a long while. When he lifted his head, everything returned to normal. He was still cold and proud. Bei Ling's father, the head of the guards from Dark Mountain Tribe, was standing not too far away. He frowned slightly. He looked at Bei Ling, then at Su Ming's back and sighed. At the tail of the dark python was the chief of the hunters, Shan Hen, who was standing beside Lei Chun. A strange glint flashed briefly in his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. He had always been a man of few words in the tribe, and very few people could tell what he was thinking. Time passed by quickly. If Su Ming had run on foot from Dark Mountain Tribe to Windstream Tribe, he would have needed about 2 days. However, on the Elder's Dark Python, it only took him less than 2 hours before he could see a large tribe on the ground. Right at the center of the tribe was a gigantic mudstone city. The city did not seem big from the sky, but as the dark python descended, the city appeared clearly before Su Ming's eyes. There were many mudstone houses in the majestic mudstone city. It did not look messy and was very clean. Even if it could not compare to the fire berserker tribe that Su Ming had seen many years ago, it was still much stronger than Dark Mountain Tribe. This city alone was not something that Dark Mountain Tribe could own. The city walls were dozens of feet tall. When a person stood below, they would need to lift their head to look up. Even if Su Ming was in midair, he still felt his heart tremble when he saw it. He was not the only one. Lei Chun was also lying on the dark python's back and peering down. His eyes were filled with envy and shock. Wu La was the same. She stared at the gigantic mudstone city dumbfoundedly. It was something she had never seen before. Only Bei Ling remained calm. The gigantic city seemed to be able to house thousands of people. There was even more space in the city. At the center of the city was a huge altar that was completely black and had the shape of a pentagon. The altar was about 100 feet tall, and there were faint pictures of birds and beasts on it. It exuded a primordial presence and was the most eye-catching thing in the city. If it was just this mudstone city, it would not have been able to show how powerful Windstream Tribe was. It was the only tribe that had members who could communicate with those who were in a higher position in the area. It was the ruler of the area, the recipient of countless tributes from the smaller tribes, and the only tribe in the area that had a connection to those who were in a higher position. However, there were 6 other tribes that were just like Dark Mountain Tribe around the Mudstone City. These 6 tribes were all affiliated to Windstream Tribe and had now become a part of Windstream Tribe. Su Ming looked at the gigantic tribe on the ground with a dumbfounded expression. The power of Windstream Tribe had exceeded his expectations. In his mind, this sort of tribe was like the sky and could destroy any enemy. As the dark python got closer, Su Ming saw many of the tribe members in Windstream Tribe lifting their heads as if they were looking at them. Su Ming did not know whether it was just an illusion or not, but he felt a sense of arrogance from the faces of these unfamiliar people from Windstream Tribe. "This is Windstream Tribe," the elder's voice echoed from the dark python. The tribe that was affiliated to Dark Mountain Tribe in the past has now become the strongest tribe in the area. Elder, was Dark Mountain Tribe as big as Windstream Tribe in the past? The one who asked was the girl called Wu La. The elder did not speak. There was a dull look in his eyes. At that moment, gentle laughter suddenly came from within Windstream Tribe. Mo sang, "It wasn't easy for you to come to Windstream Tribe." Chapter 45. There are some things I want to say to everyone, so please finish reading. There will be an update in the morning, and that will be the last chapter. Starting from Monday, I will return to writing on the spot. The new book has been published for 3 weeks, and this is the 4th week. However, the ranking isn't high, and I still can't get into the top 3 on the member clicks and recommendation lists. There are only 3 weeks left until the end of the month, and Earroot urgently wants to increase his ranking. Please help Earroot! After logging into your account, you can add 1 more member click with each click. Your vote might decide Chiomo's position on the recommendation board. Your click after logging into your account could decide Chiomo's position on the member board. Brothers, sisters, and fellow cultivators, in the last 3 weeks, can you let Earroot shine once and not be sullen once? These 3 weeks have been very sullen, and that feeling is indescribable. I saw my clicks being deducted, but what can I say? There are blisters in my mouth and fire in my heart. But what can I say? I only have one sentence. Fellow cultivators, can you let me feel your warmth when Earroot needs you the most? I want to increase my ranking and let more people see Seeking Devil. I'm confident I can write Seeking Devil well. Although it won't surpass Defying Celestial, it won't be lower than Defying Celestial. I'm confident that Seeking Devil's opening chapter is much better than Defying Celestial. Could it be that after 3 years of Defying Celestial and more than 6 million words, none of you have confidence in Earroot? Fellow cultivators, don't you know that Earroot isn't good at opening chapters, but at making a book better and better? Back then, Defying Celestial's opening chapter was very bad, and the results were a complete flop. Didn't you all see that Earroot worked hard to write a dead book? That was Defying. My Defying, Wong Lin's Defying, and fellow cultivators Defying. Now, Seeking Devil's Defying root is still there. It's not Defying Celestial, it's Devil Burning. I can't accept this. I can't accept this kind of result in the new chapter. Fellow Taoists, inverse cultivators, do you know how many people are looking at us? They're looking at our ears. They're looking at Chiomo's joke. They're looking at our ears falling off. Did you see the evaluation score? There wasn't even a single word in the main text, but the score was maliciously changed to more than 7 points. What did this mean? If my writing wasn't good, I wouldn't be so angry and sullen. But I asked many people, I asked them how it was to seek the devil. I showed it to unfamiliar people, familiar people, and many people, and the answer I got was, I didn't write it wrong. Perhaps my opening wasn't as good as others, but I didn't make any mistakes. I also have full confidence that Chiomo will get better and better. I can't accept this. Now, in these last 3 weeks, Jin needs help. I need inverse cultivation. I need the help of our past glory. I need all of you. All of you. Where are you? Right now, in this most important moment, you are bowing to the ground and asking for the help of the heavenly gods. I want to rise. I want to rise. I don't want to be a joke to others. I don't want the 2 words inverse cultivator to be short-lived. I don't want those people who maliciously give me comments to laugh out loud. I'm going all out. Even if the heavens were to mock me and I was defeated in the end, I could still calmly say this out loud. This defeat is not due to the battle. I want to get on the list. Can you guys help me? The member click-through list, the recommendation list. If I get first on any of the lists, Jin will write 4 chapters every week. I'm not just saying this out loud. If I can get first on both lists, even if I have to write until midnight, I'll keep my words of 6 chapters. I'm going all out. Let us unsheathe our swords together. We won't look back until we are stained with blood. Fellow cultivators, brothers, sisters, the time to go crazy has arrived. The time to draw the sword has arrived. The time to kill in anger has arrived. The Jin is angry. Chapter 46. There was a middle-aged man in purple robes standing on the pentagonal altar at the center of the mudstone city. He lifted his head and looked at them with a smile on his face. There was originally some distance between Su Ming and the middle-aged man, but for some unknown reason, when he heard the man's voice, the man's face immediately appeared before his eyes. It was as if he was observing the man at a close distance. This strange sight made Su Ming's heart tremble. At the same time, as the man's laughter traveled into his ears, the qi in his body started circulating as if it was no longer under his control. It was as if with just one look from the man, all the blood in his body would pour out, and he would die in an instant. Su Ming was not the only one who felt that way. Lei Chun Wu La and even Bei Ling felt the same way. Lei Chen trembled, and disbelief appeared in his eyes. Wu La was also trembling. It was as if the middle-aged man before her was so powerful that she had to kneel down and worship him. Even Bei Ling's father, the head of the guards from Dark Mountain Tribe, was trembling slightly. He slowly lowered his head towards the middle-aged man who was walking towards them from the altar. Besides the head of the guards, the chief of the hunters, Shan Hen, was breathing rapidly. There was a hint of passion and desire in his eyes. This sort of gaze was rarely seen on him, who was usually quiet. Transcendence realm. Su Ming seemed to be screaming in his heart. At that moment, these three words appeared in his head. Transcendence realm, step in the air, berserker mark in the sky. With a single word, move the berserker blood, break the heavens. These were the only words that described the transcendence realm in the Beast Skin book. Su Ming looked at the man in purple robes walking towards them in the air with a dumbfounded expression. The man looked to be in his 40s. He was slightly thin, but he was incredibly handsome. There were not many signs of the Berserker tribe on his body. Only the bone earrings on his ears revealed a hint of the Berserker tribe's features. That purple robe was something Su Ming had never seen before. It could not be compared to sackcloth, and neither could his beast skin robes be compared to it. As he walked towards them, Windstream tribe behind him started distorting. It was as if the sky and earth lost their color at that moment. Besides him, nothing else existed. At the same time, the moaning of the wind ceased, and the transformations of the clouds froze. The middle-aged man had long hair and a smile on his face. He approached them slowly. His smile was like a spring breeze, causing the chi within Su Ming and the others to calm down. Yet as the man got closer, they felt as if they were suffocating. It was as if they did not dare to breathe. The man's gaze seemed to contain the heavens. It made all those who looked into his eyes blank. It was as if all their secrets would be discovered by him, making them feel as if they were naked. The dark python also stopped in midair, not daring to move at all. It seemed to be able to sense how terrifying the middle-aged man was. The elder slowly stood up. He hid the complicated look in his eyes when the girl appeared just now. I, Mo sang, greet the great berserker of Windstream. The elder's face was old. He stood up and bowed towards the middle-aged man. Elder, there. Mo, the middle-aged man's voice was gentle, but he did not stop the elder from bowing. When the elder bowed, the middle-aged man waved his right hand as if he wanted to help the elder up from a distance. The elder's body trembled, but he did not get up. Instead, under that power, he calmly bowed again. With that bow, the power around the elder's body seemed to crumble. When it gradually faded away, the elder straightened his back. The purple-robed man gave the elder a meaningful look. He smiled, shook his head, and pointed at the elder. You still have the same temper as when you were young. How many years has it been? Why did you think of coming to find me this time? Mo Sang has considered the request made by the upper barbarians in the past and has come to a decision. The elder's expression was as usual as he spoke slowly. When the purple-robed man heard this, his expression immediately froze. Su Ming and the others had also stood up a long time ago. They stood respectfully by the side. Su Ming was the closest to the elder. He could somewhat feel the elder's emotions as he faced his old friend. He also understood why the elder never came to Windstream. As Su Ming looked at the elder's old face and his heart pounded against his chest, he glanced at the purple-robed man out of the corner of his eyes. The words the elder had once told him appeared in his head. The elder of Windstream tribe was weaker than me before he was 20 years old. When he was 34 years old, he could only barely fight against me. At that time, there was no one in the tribe who didn't know my name. Su Ming's heart was in a knot. He was about to avert his gaze when the purple-robed man looked at him with a smile. With that one look, Su Ming felt as if there was a roar in his head. He could clearly feel that the middle-aged man had seen through the concealment the elder had placed on him. Just as Su Ming was about to lose it and his body trembled, The middle-aged man averted his gaze and looked at Bei Ling and the others. Lei Chun, Wu La, the chief of guards, Shan Hen, and the head of the guards from Dark Mountain Tribe. Greetings, upper barbarian tribe of Wind Stream. Shan Hen was the first to bow. The others followed suit. Lei Chen's heart pounded against his chest. He was so nervous that his face turned pale. Wu La was the same. Even Bei Ling was no longer aloof. He was instead respectful. I remember you. You're Bei Ling, right? The middle-aged man pointed at Bei Ling. Bei Ling was stunned for a moment before joy appeared in his eyes. His voice trembled as he quickly spoke respectfully. Upper barbarian tribe. I am Bei Ling. The purple-robed man smiled and nodded his head. He looked at the elder and was about to speak when his expression suddenly changed and he looked into the distance. The elder had been standing there silently. At that moment, he seemed to have noticed something as well. After the middle-aged man, he looked over. There seemed to be a huge gust of wind whistling in the distance. A gigantic black line was charging towards them. Not long after, as the black line approached them, they could clearly see that it was a gigantic dark dragon that was about 100 feet long. The dark dragon had hundreds of legs and looked incredibly ferocious. As it moved forward, there was black fog surrounding it. There were 6 people standing on it. Su Ming looked at the approaching dark dragon and then at the person in white standing among the 6 people on it. A smile appeared on his face. The person in the lead was an old woman with silver hair. She wore a black robe. She may have looked old, but it was clear that she must have been incredibly beautiful when she was young. However, her expression was so cold that people who looked at her would feel a chill down their spines. Su Ming noticed that the elder's gaze when he looked at the old woman from Dark Dragon Tribe was slightly different. Behind the old woman was a burly man who looked like an iron tower. The burly man was extremely tall and had an equally cold expression. His vital energy and blood were so strong that he seemed to be slightly taller than Shan Hen and the head of the guards. Beside the old woman was a girl dressed in white. The girl's eyes were filled with hope. She was incredibly beautiful, but there was a hint of sadness in her eyes that refused to go away. However, the moment she saw Su Ming, that sadness disappeared and was replaced by surprise and joy. She even winked at Su Ming. Su Ming was also familiar with one of the other 3 people. It was Si Kong. He stood on the dark dragon's back and glared at Su Ming with hatred in his eyes. The other 2 people were not too old. They were about the same age as Su Ming. They were a boy and a girl. From their appearances, they seemed to be siblings. They were both silent. However, the girl had a strong build and looked voluptuous. She also had a beautiful face. As the dark dragon approached them, the old woman and the rest of the people on it bowed towards the man in purple. Their faces were filled with respect. Even the dark dragon beneath them was trembling, as if it was terrified of the man in purple. The man in purple still had a smile on his face. He nodded his head and accepted Dark Dragon Tribe's greeting. Then, a person charged towards them from Windstream Tribe. There was purple fog surrounding the person's feet. He appeared in midair and bowed towards a man in purple. The person was an old man in white robes. It was Shihai, the one who took away Su Ming's medicinal pills that day. Shihai, take good care of our guest. Once the man in purple finished speaking, he looked at Dark Mountain Tribe's elder, Mo Sang, after Shihai obeyed. Mo Sang, some tribes have offered us some mulberry cloud leaves as a tribute. I know that you loved them the most in the past. I was waiting for you to come and taste them with you. The elder of Dark Mountain Tribe nodded his head slightly. He turned around and gave a few instructions to the head of the guards before he stood up. Su Ming was surprised when he saw the elder walking towards the man in purple, as if he was walking on air. They flew towards the Mudstone City together. As he looked at the man in purple's back, a hint of desire appeared in Su Ming's eyes. The Transcendence Realm. I wonder when I'll be able to reach the Transcendence Realm. Just as Su Ming was looking forward to it, Shihai looked at the crowd with a smile on his face. Besides these juniors, all of you are old friends. You're all here earlier than the rest of the tribes. I will take care of you this time. Please enter Wind Stream City. Shihai had other things on his mind. He smiled at the back of his head and after exchanging some pleasantries, he led the crowd towards the Mudstone City. During that time, Lei Chen came to Su Ming's side. He seemed to have remembered what happened at the square after he met Bai Ling and felt a little guilty. It was as if he could push all the blame on Su Ming by standing beside him. Su Ming would occasionally look at Bai Ling. Bai Ling would also smile and occasionally meet Su Ming's gaze. The moment their gazes met, Su Ming could hear his own heart racing. Very soon, the people from the two tribes entered Windstream City and landed on a huge field. The dark dragon scattered and turned into black mist that quickly seeped into the old woman from Dark Dragon Tribe. As for the dark python, it turned into white clouds that rose into the sky and disappeared without a trace. There were already people from Windstream Tribe waiting on the huge field. Under Shirhai's arrangements, there were people who came forward to lead the way politely and arrange their accommodations for the time being. However, the politeness was only on the surface. There was still a hint of arrogance hidden under their attitude. Under Shan Hen and the head of the guard's lead, Su Ming and the others were about to leave when a voice came from within Dark Dragon Tribe. "You're Su Ming?" Su Ming stopped in his tracks. When he turned around, he saw the old woman from Dark Dragon Tribe looking at him darkly. Chapter 47. Su Ming was nervous. This nervousness was not only because the person was the elder of Dark Dragon Tribe, but also because she was Bai Ling's elder. At the same time, he was also nervous about the assumptions and analysis the elder had shared with him on the way to Windstream Tribe. "I am Su Ming. Greetings, elder of Dark Dragon Tribe." Su Ming took a deep breath and bowed respectfully towards the old woman. The old woman's face was dark as she stared at Su Ming. No one knew what she was thinking about. The people around them fell silent because of this. Even the ushers from Windstream Tribe looked at Su Ming. Even Shirhai, who was about to leave with a load on his mind, stopped in his tracks. He looked towards Su Ming, slightly surprised. In his eyes, Su Ming was just a normal child. There was not a hint of qi in his body. He looked at him once and averted his gaze. He no longer thought about the conflict between the two small tribes. He was anxious. He had been searching for the fallen berserker who created the strange medicine for a long time, but had no clues. The elder had even asked him about it a few days ago. Shirhai did not know how he should continue searching. Could it be that the fallen berserker has left this place? Where am I supposed to find him? Lei Chen stood beside Su Ming and glared at the old woman who was looking at Su Ming. He may be respectful towards the elder of Windstream Tribe, but he did not respect the old woman at all. Bai Ling frowned. His gaze fell upon Su Ming, and a hint of displeasure flashed through his eyes. He could not understand how Su Ming had offended Dark Dragon Tribe. "It's been so many years. You've grown so much." The old woman stared at Su Ming for a long time before she spoke slowly. There was no hint of joy or anger in her voice. Su Ming became even more nervous. He stood there, not knowing what to say. At that moment, he could clearly feel all the gazes on him. It was a feeling he rarely experienced, and he was not used to it. Bai Ling's face was pale as she stood behind the old woman. She clutched the corners of her robes instinctively. Si Kong, who was by her side, looked pleased as he glared at Su Ming. "It's a pity." The old woman looked at Su Ming and continued speaking slowly. "Your elder only brought you up, but he didn't teach you how to be civilized. That's why you have no sense of propriety. Why don't you think about who you are?" The old woman did not speak much, but there was a hint of mockery in her words. It did not match her status as an elder. Su Ming's face immediately turned pale. This was the weakest spot in his heart, and it was especially so in front of so many people. It made Su Ming bite his bottom lip and remain silent. "Grandpa!" Bai Ling looked at Su Ming's pale face, and her heart immediately clenched in pain. She immediately spoke, and her gaze towards the old woman was filled with anger. Lei Chun, who was standing beside Su Ming, immediately glared at him. He did not care who that person was. When he saw Su Ming being humiliated, he was instantly enraged and was about to rush forward. Yet the moment he took a step forward, a strange glint appeared in the old woman's eyes. Lei Chen trembled. At that moment, the head of the guards from Dark Mountain tribe, who had been standing by the side without saying a word, frowned and took a step forward. As his foot landed, the head of the guards seemed to change instantly. A sharp aura suddenly exploded from his body and surrounded him. Just hearing the muffled rumble from outside Lei Chen's body, Lei Chen's face paled, and he took a few steps back. "Sir Elder, you don't have to do this to a child from Dark Mountain tribe." The head of the guard's face darkened as he spoke slowly. Almost the moment he took a step forward, the man standing behind the old woman lifted his head and took a step forward as well. A presence that was even stronger than the head of the guards exploded forth. Shan Hen, who had been silent all this while, narrowed his eyes and glared at the man from Dark Dragon tribe as if he had turned into a poisonous snake. The atmosphere was tense. Shahai watched the scene from a distance. A mocking smile appeared on his lips. To him, these two small tribes were originally one family hundreds of years ago. Yet now, things had turned out this way. He fell silent for a moment, but did not stop them. Instead, he stood there and watched the show. Su Ming lowered his head in silence. Lei Chen's anger had yet to dissipate. He might be afraid, but just as he was about to speak, Su Ming lifted his right hand and grabbed Lei Chen's arm. Lei Chen was stunned. Su Ming lifted his head slowly. His face was still pale. His frail body made him look like a lost Su who would never grow up. There was still a hint of youth on his face. He had not experienced the passage of time, nor had he experienced the desolation of wind and rain. He was still a child. His eyes were clear, very clean, very transparent. There were not many impurities in them. He bit his bottom lip and looked at the old woman from Dark Dragon tribe. He let go of Lei Chen's arm and walked forward. At that moment, he was still the center of attention of all the people around him. Yet he did not care. He walked past Lei Chen, past the head of the guards, and arrived 10 feet away from the old woman. He stood there and looked at the old woman who was looking at him quietly. "I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have a father or a mother. I don't have any right or status in your eyes. But my elder once told me that you only see a part of the rain that falls from the sky. You don't know how much more there will be once the rain stops. You can only see the surface of the muddy water on the ground. You can't see the bottom. This year, I'm 16. Su Ming lowered his head and spoke softly. Once he finished speaking, he turned around and walked away slowly. Lei Chen followed behind Su Ming. He turned around and glared at the old woman and let out a harumph. When the head of the guards and Shan Hen saw that the old woman no longer spoke, they retreated slowly. They brought Bei Ling and Wu La into the distance under the guidance of the ushers from Windstream. The old woman looked at Su Ming's back and frowned. There was a glint in her eyes that no one could understand. She turned around and walked away. "Bai Ling, come back with me." Bai Ling stood there and looked at Su Ming's retreating back. Her heart was in a mess. Her grandmother's words reached her ears. In silence, she left with the old woman. Every single time the tribes came to pay their respects, they would be invited into the Mudstone City and arranged to stay at a designated place until the end of the worship. Dark Mountain Tribe was arranged to stay at the southern part of the Mudstone City. It was a huge house that was made up of 9 houses that were connected together. There were also some fences around the house, making it seem as if the place was isolated from the rest of the tribe. At that moment, all the tribe members from Dark Mountain Tribe were gathered in one of the houses. They sat down cross-legged and listened to the head of the guards who was sitting right in front of them. The number of people in Windstream Tribe far exceeds the number of people in Dark Mountain Tribe. Because of that, the number of berserkers they have also far exceeds ours. Besides, Windstream Tribe is the ruler of the area. They worship us once every few years, so Windstream Tribe seems to have control over all the herbs in this area. They even have a few statues of the god of berserkers. The head of the guards swept his gaze across the crowd and spoke in a low voice. Dark Mountain Tribe can't compare to a middle-sized tribe. I don't know the exact number of berserkers in Windstream Tribe, but there must be hundreds of them. These berserkers have enough herbs and different statues of the god of berserkers that have been passed down. It's not something a small tribe can compare to. Their training speed is much faster than ours, and the conditions in the world around them are much better than ours. The chances of a talented person appearing among them is also much higher than ours. During this period of time, Shanhen and I will not restrict your movements. We brought you here because we wanted you to witness the might of a middle-sized tribe and the powerful berserkers in Windstream Tribe. I hope that you can get to know some friends here. It doesn't matter whether they're from Windstream Tribe or other tribes. Besides our enemy, Black Mountain Tribe, you can get to know all the other tribes. As the head of the guard spoke, he cast a glance at Su Ming, who had been silent ever since he came back. At the same time, I also hope that you can see the outstanding people from other tribes and find the difference between you and them, as well as your goals. But you must remember one thing. You are not allowed to fight in Windstream Tribe. Don't worry, we're not the only ones who do this. The other tribes will do the same. Also, you'll be staying in Windstream Tribe for a longer period of time. Every few years, you'll have to pay your respects to the god of berserkers. It'll also be the time when Windstream Tribe holds a test. If you can get a good ranking, it'll be very beneficial to you. Beiling, you've been in Windstream Tribe for a few years. You know this place very well. Why don't you introduce us to the powerful berserkers in Windstream Tribe? Beiling sat by the side and nodded his head when he heard the head of the guard's words. There are many powerful berserkers in Windstream Tribe, especially among our peers. There are 7 people that we need to pay special attention to. The first one is Yuang. This person, as Bei Ling introduced the people, Su Ming sat in the corner and remained silent. The old woman from Dark Dragon Tribe's words made him feel terrible. Even when he returned to the tribe, her words still echoed in his head. Su Ming closed his eyes and clenched his fists. Su Ming! A cold voice traveled into Su Ming's ears. Su Ming turned his head around and saw the chief of the hunters, Shanhen, sitting cross-legged behind him. Why did the elder of Dark Dragon Tribe say those things to you? Shanhen looked at Su Ming calmly and asked in a low voice. It's nothing. Su Ming was silent for a moment before he shook his head. Shanhen frowned slightly. A strange glint appeared in his eyes. Just as he was about to speak, he suddenly lifted his head and looked outside the house. At the same time, the head of the guards also looked outside. They saw a guide from Windstream Tribe, who looked to be in his 30s, walking quickly towards them. Who is Su Ming? The elder has summoned you. Please come with me. Su Ming was momentarily stunned. He stood up and looked at the head of the guards sitting in front of him. When he saw the head of the guards giving him a slight nod, Su Ming walked out of the house and stood before the Windstream Tribe member. I am Su Ming, Su Ming said calmly. The Windstream Tribe member looked at Su Ming for a moment before he turned around and left. Su Ming hesitated for a moment before he followed behind him. As he walked out of the house, he heard Bei Ling's voice behind him. In the past, there were about 100 people who participated in the test. However, the top 50 were almost all members of Windstream Tribe. It's especially so for the top 10. From what I know, there hasn't been a single outsider who managed to get into the top 10 for the past 50 years. This year's test will be the same. Remember, this time you must work with me and get into the top 50. As long as I get into the top 50, even if I'm at the bottom, it'll be a great achievement for Dark Mountain Tribe. Chapter 48. Su Ming walked quietly within the mudstone city that belonged to Windstream Tribe. Before him, the tribe member who received him walked alone. Su Ming could clearly feel the arrogance exuding from his back. He does indeed have the right to be arrogant. Su Ming looked at the city before him and at the mudstone houses. He could not help but remember the tents in his tribe. Compared to them, or perhaps they could not even compare. On the way, Su Ming saw too many Windstream Tribe members. In fact, he had never seen so many berserkers in the past 16 years. It was incredibly lively. Even the beast skins worn by the men and women in the crowd were much better than the shabby clothes Su Ming was wearing. There were also quite a number of them who wore the sackcloth that only the elder would wear. All of these people were berserkers with incredibly strong chi. A middle-sized tribe. Su Ming looked at everything he saw, then looked at the city walls in the distance. He remembered that when he was in the air, he saw 6 tribes like Dark Mountain around the Mudstone City. It was clear that they did not have the right to stay in the city for long. They could only stay outside. On the way, Su Ming saw many houses that sold goods. There may not be many people there, but every single person who entered and left the houses made Su Ming's heart tremble. The ground was not made of mud, but was covered with stones. The stones were crushed and flattened using some unknown method. When Su Ming stepped on the hard ground, it made him feel slightly uncomfortable, even though he was used to soft mud. Su Ming also saw a few giant bows that were about 100 feet long on the mudstone city walls in the distance. They were completely black and exuded a murderous aura. When people looked at them, they would feel chills down their spines. "Are you done looking?" A piercing voice interrupted Su Ming's vision. It was the tribe member who received him. He turned his head around and looked at Su Ming with a smile. The arrogance contained within that smile turned into mockery. He was not mocking Su Ming, but was mocking the fact that the people from the small tribes were all stunned when they came here. "Don't look at it for now. You'll be staying here for a while. You can look at it whenever you want, especially at night. I suggest that you don't stay in your house. Go out and take a walk." The nights in Windstream Tribe cannot compare to those in Dark Mountain Tribe. "Come with me now. Don't let the elder wait for too long." The tribe member of Windstream Tribe patted Su Ming's shoulders, then turned around and increased his speed. Su Ming fell silent and quickly followed behind her. At the center of the Mudstone City was the gigantic pentagonal altar. There were 3 chambers within it. At that moment, the elder of Windstream Tribe, the man in purple robes who was in the Transcendence realm, was sitting cross-legged in one of the chambers. Opposite him was the calm elder of Dark Mountain Tribe, Mo Sang. Between the two of them was a chessboard. The chessboard was made from beast bones and looked very crude. The chessboard was carved from a large stone. Apart from the chessboard, there was also a fist-sized stone cup beside the two of them. Steam wafted out of the cups, carrying a fragrance that lingered in the air. Mo Sang, when you came back from the outside world, you gave me this chessboard and chess pieces. You even taught me how to play chess. You must have done it so that you wouldn't be lonely. You wanted someone to accompany you to relieve your boredom. The man in purple robes picked up a beast bone chess piece and placed it on the ground. He lifted his head and smiled. "I got this chessboard from Tai tribe. It's said that the ancestors of Tai tribe made it from a faraway place. It's a pity that I haven't touched it for many years. I can't win against you." The elder picked up a chess piece and placed it by the side as he spoke softly. Mo Sang, "I've always been envious of you." The man in purple sighed softly. He looked at the old Mo Sang before him, and the memories of the two of them when they were young surfaced in his mind. In his memories, Mo Sang had been so high-spirited and arrogant in the past. There was no one in their generation who did not know about him. Yet now, who would have thought that the prodigy of the past would become an old man in his twilight years? You shouldn't have been born in Dark Mountain Tribe. If you had agreed to the elder's request and become his berserker son, then the current elder of Windstream Tribe wouldn't have been me. But besides, you wouldn't have had a hard time increasing your level of cultivation. You would have reached the Transcendence realm much earlier than me. In fact, the elder even said that you're the person who has the highest chance of reaching the Bone Sacrifice realm among all the people he's met in his life. When he mentioned the Bone Sacrifice realm, a bright light appeared in the man in purple robes. There was desire in his eyes. "Bone sacrifice. Bone sacrifice. Sacrifice your 13th spine and break the seal of fate, so that the 13th spine will become a true berserker bone during the era of the berserkers." As the man in purple robes spoke, the light in his eyes dimmed. "I can't do it," Mo Sang fell silent. When he heard the words Bone Sacrifice Realm, anguish and nostalgia appeared on his face. If you had agreed to the elder's request to marry Wen Yin and join Windstream, the elder would have used the entire tribe's power to help you reach the Bone Sacrifice Realm. Once you reach the Bone Sacrifice Realm, Windstream Tribe wouldn't have been able to hide here. The man in purple robes smiled bitterly. "Jing Nan, it's all in the past," Mo Sang said slowly. "Yes, it's all in the past." When the man in purple robes heard Mo Sang finally call his name, he shook his head and sighed. You're willing to meet your old friend this time because of the child who stood beside you just now. He should be the baby you brought back that year. Jing Nan, the elder of Wind Stream Tribe, looked at Mo Sang and spoke slowly. That's one of the reasons. Mo Sang picked up the stone cup and blew at it. Once he blew away some of the hot air, he took a slow sip. I can feel that the blood moon a few days ago is related to Black Mountain Tribe. Then by two from Black Mountain Tribe might have found another serendipity. The elder put down the stone cup. I won't hide it from you. He can reach the transcendence realm at any moment. Mo Sang, if you ask me to kill him, then... Jing Nan hesitated for a moment before he shook his head. I can't do this. If he reaches the transcendence realm, he'll be of great help to Wind Stream Tribe. Even if you agreed to my request all those years ago, I can't do it. It's fine. The elder smiled faintly. He knew that this would happen. Jing Nan was not as friendly as he appeared to be. Both of them understood the conflict between them. You have your own difficulties. I can understand that. Besides, we'll have to come to an end sooner or later. I came here this time to make a deal with you. Oh, speak. A barely noticeable glint appeared in Jing Nan's eyes as he spoke slowly. His voice was very soft. Only Jing Nan could hear it. Once he heard it, his expression did not change, but he closed his eyes as if he was deep in thought. The elder did not rush him. Instead, he picked up the stone cup and took a slow sip. Time trickled by. The chamber was silent. No one knew how much time had passed. Suddenly, a respectful voice came from outside the chamber. Elder, Su Ming is here. Let him in. Jing Nan still had his eyes closed. He did not open them. The sound of footsteps came from afar in the silent chamber. Su Ming was nervous. He walked forward. The light in the chamber was not bright. It was rather dark. As he moved forward, he saw the elder and the man in purple robes in the chamber at the end of the path. When he saw the elder, Su Ming let out a sigh of relief. Su Ming, come to my side. A smile appeared on the elder's face. He waved at Su Ming. Su Ming took a few brisk steps forward and stood behind the elder. He lowered his head and did not speak. Tell me your second request. After a moment, Jing Nan opened his eyes. There was a glint in his eyes as he stared at Mo Sang and spoke slowly. I want a drop of your berserker blood. The elder also stared at Jing Nan and spoke slowly. Jing Nan immediately frowned. As a berserker, all berserkers had berserker blood. However, he was a powerful berserker in the transcendence realm. His berserker blood was incredibly precious. Every time he created a drop of it, he would need to rest for a period of time before he could recover. Even for the tribe members, besides those who were extremely talented, he would rarely give them a drop of berserker blood. In his silence, Jing Nan looked past Mo Sang and at Su Ming. Su Ming may have had his head lowered, but he could still feel the man in purple's gaze on him. It was as if he was being pricked by needles. Give it to him? This child's talent is normal. It's hard for him to fuse with one drop of my berserker blood. It's a waste. Change your request. Jing Nan averted his gaze and spoke calmly. I haven't changed my two requests, the ancient berserker art and the true awakening. If you agree to it, I'll give it to you after this. Mo Sang picked up the stone cup and passed it to Su Ming behind him, gesturing for him to drink. Once Su Ming took the cup, he drank it in one gulp without hesitation. Immediately, a warm feeling spread through his body. It was a comfortable feeling. Jing Nan frowned and fell into deep thought for a while. He looked at Mo Sang and suddenly spoke. All right, I'll agree to your two requests. But as for the berserker blood, you know that there are 3 stages in this test. I'll give a berserker blood to the top 3 in each stage. To avoid wasting it, I'll add another condition. If this child can get into the top 40 in any of the stages, then I'll give him a berserker blood. If he can't do it, then you'll have to change your request. The elder fell into deep thought. He still felt that Jing Nan was purposely making things difficult for him. After thinking for a long time, he nodded his head. He was thinking about how he could give Su Ming similar benefits if he changed his request. As Su Ming listened to the words, he looked at the elder's white hair and the wrinkles on his face. He thought about the mocking words of the old woman from Dark Dragon Tribe and Bei Ling's indifference. He even thought about the loneliness in his heart since he was young and the fantasies he had about the beast skin scroll when he looked at the night sky. All of these things surrounded Su Ming's mind and turned into a determination and resolution that he had never felt before. This determination was even stronger than when he worshipped the statue of the god of berserkers. The elder stood up and gestured for Su Ming to follow him. Just as they were about to leave, Jing Nan stared at Sang. There was a hint of hesitation in his eyes before he suddenly spoke. Sang, I have a question. It's been buried in my heart for more than 10 years, and I've always wanted to ask you. Now that you've come to Windstream Tribe, I hope you can tell me the answer. The elder did not stop. He walked in front, and Su Ming followed behind him. He heard the voice of the man in purple robes behind him. You're only at the 9th level of the blood solidification realm. Why is it that no matter if it's in the past or now, I can still feel a faint presence from you that definitely belongs to those in the transcendence realm? The man in purple robes spoke quickly. He did not reveal all of his thoughts. There was even a hint of presence within the person's presence that made him feel terrified. It was like that in the past, and it was still like that now. Chapter 49. When Su Ming heard those words, he was shocked. He had a vague understanding of the relationship between the elder and the elder of Windstream Tribe. It was not what he thought it was. There was a high possibility that there was some sort of past conflict between the two of them. It was precisely because of this that the elder did not want to come to Windstream all these years was partially related to this. At the same time, the elder of Windstream Tribe must have been wary of the elder, which was why he was so polite to him, even though he was only at the blood solidification realm. The image of the elder and the man in purple walking on the dark python appeared in Su Ming's mind. His heart started pounding uncontrollably against his chest. You'll know in the future. The elder did not answer. He only said those words slowly and brought Su Ming out of the pentagonal altar. Inside the altar, Jing Nan was silent. He looked in the direction that Sang had left in, and his expression gradually darkened. After a long while, he took out a small bottle from his bosom. The small bottle was purple in color and looked extremely beautiful. Moreover, since it was something that he carried around with him, it was obviously extremely precious to him. When he opened the bottle, a medicinal fragrance wafted into his nostrils. There was a medicinal pill inside, scattering dust. It's a pity there's only one pill. One pill won't have much effect on me. If only I could get 8 more. A hint of desire appeared in Jing Nan's eyes. I must find the fallen berserker who created this pill. I must find him at all costs. I've already locked down the entire area. He won't be able to escape. I can feel him nearby. He's very close to me. It was already dusk outside. The Mudstone City was about to be enveloped by moonlight, but there were still a lot of tribe members in the city. The city seemed to be bustling with activity. There were also many places where fires were lit. Those fires were placed in items that Su Ming had never seen before. They floated in midair and illuminated the entire city. The elder walked in front, and Su Ming followed behind him. The two of them were silent. 7 days later will be the day of Windstream's test. The test is hosted by Windstream Tribe. All the small tribes who came to pay their respects must send their people to participate. It's a grand ceremony for the younger generation like you. Elder hopes that you can participate. You don't have to worry about exposing your cultivation. Elder will make the arrangements. You just have to take this item. Other than Jing Nan, no one else will know it's you. Su Ming, that's all I can do to help you. You'll have to rely on yourself in the future. The elder patted Su Ming's head and spoke kindly. He lifted his right hand and waved it casually. Immediately, a faint presence of qi appeared on the elder's body. Then, a black straw hat made of weeds appeared in the elder's hand. I obtained this from a large tribe in the past. It can be considered as a berserker vessel. If you fuse it with your berserker blood, it can slightly change your body and appearance. It might not change much, but it will make you look like a completely different person. It was something I liked a lot when I was young. This item has been with me for many years. Now, it is no longer of any use to me. I will give it to you. The elder took the black straw hat and slapped it on Su Ming's body. Immediately, Su Ming felt his entire body tremble. It was as if a chill had seeped into his body. The straw hat disappeared in an instant. Yet even if it disappeared, Su Ming could still feel his emotions. It was as if the item had fused into his body, just like the replica of blood scales. Soon after, the elder told Su Ming how to use the bamboo hat to change his body shape into the bamboo hat. During the test, stay in your house. Don't follow us. Once we leave, change your body. I will arrange for someone to bring you to participate in the test in secret. The elder smiled faintly. Su Ming wanted to say something, but hesitated for a moment. He did not speak, but he made up his mind. This time, even if he had to give it his all, he would not let the elder down. Top 40? Top 40. Su Ming gritted his teeth. Su Ming, since you were young, I've taught you to think more and think more. This will be of great help to you in the future. Now, I will give you another question. Let's see if our little lost Su can figure it out. The elder turned his head and looked at Su Ming kindly. He winked and smiled. Listen up, Su Ming. I will only tell you once. 32, 79, 248, 371, 563, 781. Su Ming was stunned. He mumbled the 6 numbers but could not figure out the meaning behind them. He looked at the elder's smile. It seemed like the elder did not intend to tell him directly. Su Ming memorized the 6 numbers and fell into deep thought. The moonlight shone on their bodies and gradually elongated their shadows. Su Ming and the elder walked further and further away. Time passed by, and it was already midnight 6 days later. Windstream Tribe's grand ceremony was about to begin in the morning. During these 6 days, Su Ming stayed in the single house that Windstream Tribe had given to Dark Mountain Tribe. He was very careful as he meditated and circulated the qi in his body. He always felt as if there was a pair of eyes staring at him, but he did not notice it. Su Ming's training was interrupted as he was being watched. Every single time the strange feeling was at its strongest, he would just lie down and give up on training. He would close his eyes and sleep while thinking about the 6 numbers in his head. He could not figure it out no matter how hard he thought about it. It was not until the 5th day that the feeling of being watched completely disappeared. Su Ming was very nervous about it. He had tried to guess who was watching him. A few people appeared in his head, but he could not be sure. During these few days, Lei Chen came to look for Su Ming a few times. The rest of the time, he stayed with Wu La and trained before the test under the elder's guidance. Yet with his personality, after training for a while, he would drag Su Ming out and walk around the Mudstone City. Sometimes, if Su Ming did not want to go out, Lei Chen would go out by himself. Every single time he came back, there would be a mysterious look on his face. No matter how Su Ming looked at it, his expression was somewhat familiar. Su Ming, you don't know. There's such a place in the Mudstone City. I've never seen so many women in my life. Su Ming, there's a type of water here. They call it wine. The taste. Why don't you try it? Su Ming, guess what I saw today? I saw the people from Black Mountain Tribe coming here. They brought their tribe members here. It was a black cloud, but the elder of Black Mountain Tribe didn't come. I heard that the leader of the tribe was the one leading them. Su Ming, stop sleeping. Listen to me. I met a member of Black Mountain Tribe today. He's about the same age as us. That boy was really arrogant. If it wasn't for the fact that we're not allowed to fight here, I would have beaten him up. Su Ming, I saw Bai Ling today. Don't you think it's strange? Could it be that she was really fooled by us? She didn't even ask me about the stone coins. But when she saw me, she asked you about it. Su Ming, I found out that I like someone. She's the person I told you about yesterday. Didn't you see Bai Ling? There's a girl beside her. She's also from Dark Dragon Tribe. She's curvy and much prettier than Bai Ling. Su Ming, I finally know what her name is. Her name is Bai Fong. What a nice name. During the past few days, Lei Chen would tell Su Ming about what he saw and what was on his mind. It was especially so during the last few days. Almost all he talked about was the girl called Bai Fong. As for Bai Ling, he often went out. Even if he stayed in his house, there would be many young men from Branch Stream Tribe who came to look for him. They seemed to be very friendly. However, on the 6th night, When Su Ming walked out of his house and looked at the moon in the sky, he saw Bei Ling, who was being dragged away by Wind Stream Tribe, looking reluctant. "I don't want to go today." Bei Ling hesitated for a moment outside the gate before he spoke in a low voice. "You don't want to go? That's fine. But Bei Ling, Wu Sun personally asked you to join our ceremony. If you don't join, then you won't be able to get the Elder's Berserker blood. Don't forget how you managed to get into the top 50 last time." The Windstream tribe member who dragged Bei Ling out was a young man about 18 or 19 years old. He spoke slowly with a smile on his face. There were two other people by his side. They also looked at Bei Ling with disdain. Bei Ling remained silent and nodded slowly. He walked out with the three people and disappeared into the night. Su Ming watched from afar and frowned slightly. He fell into deep thought and looked at the moon in the sky before he walked out of the gate slowly. Wu Sun. Su Ming remembered that Bei Ling had mentioned this name before. It was said that he was one of the three strongest youths in Windstream Tribe. Almost everyone agreed that he would definitely get into the top 3 in all 3 stages during the test. Bei Ling's words about this person were simple. He did not go into too much detail and instead quickly introduced the next person. Su Ming's body slowly changed as he walked through the darkness of the brightly lit Mudstone City. After a moment, he grew 7 inches taller, and his body became much stronger. Even his hair grew longer, and his face turned from a delicate and pretty boy to a simple and unsophisticated man. There was a valiant air about him, and he looked no different from a normal frail tribe member. Even his clothes changed. It was a strange sight. Su Ming moved his body. He did not feel any discomfort. It was the same as usual. As he circulated the qi in his body, the 49 blood veins did not appear on his skin. However, a powerful presence erupted from his body. Under the moonlight, even those at the 5th level of the blood solidification realm are no match for me. With blood scales, even those at the 6th level of the blood solidification realm can't do anything to me. Su Ming's eyes flashed. He lifted his head and looked at the moon before he walked forward. Bei Ling has just entered the 6th level of the blood solidification realm. As for his father and the chief of the hunters, they're both at the 8th level. It's rare for someone to reach the 8th level among the younger generation. They can definitely surpass their peers. Wu Sun and the other 2 are at the same level. I'm certain that he won't be at the 8th level. Su Ming did not walk quickly. He walked in a secretive manner. He only walked to dark corners. He looked at Bei Ling and the other 3 from afar and followed them. The other 3 are only at the 5th level of the blood solidification realm. But judging by Bei Ling's fearful expression, Wu Sen's power must be higher than him. Higher than the 6th level, but weaker than the 8th level. I'm 80% sure that Wu Sun is at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. I might not be able to win against him at the 7th level, but under the moonlight, even if we fight, he won't be able to keep me here. Su Ming was very confident in his speed. He followed behind not because he was curious, but because of Bei Ling's unwilling expression. It reminded him of Bei Ling, who he used to call his brother when he was young. With mixed feelings, he followed slowly. Time passed by. The moon hung high in the sky. Bei Ling and the other 3 disappeared into a normal mudstone house. It was a very secluded place. It was located in a corner of the Mudstone City. Chapter 50. Su Ming stopped outside the house and stood in the dark like a hunter. He stared at the house for a while, and a frown gradually appeared on his face. He seemed to have sensed something and quickly went to the door of the house. He pushed the door open and stepped inside. There was no one in the house. Interesting, Su Ming mumbled to himself. Su Ming mumbled to himself and lowered his head. His eyes sparkled as he looked around. At the end of the house was a hole. He hesitated for a moment and crouched down beside the hole to take a closer look. Then he touched the hole. It was made of mud and it was very dry. It was clear that the hole had been there for a long time. His eyes flashed and he jumped into the hole. It was a tunnel. Su Ming did not make a single sound as he chased down the tunnel at full speed. As he moved forward, he calculated the direction of the tunnel. It was not difficult to tell that this was a tunnel that passed through the walls of the mudstone city and extended outwards. There were some messy footprints on the ground of the tunnel. Su Ming would occasionally stop and observe them carefully. He calculated in his heart, there should be about 7 or 8 people. Su Ming fell in a deep thought and took out the horn. As he moved forward, he dug deep holes on the ground. The horn did not require much effort to dig through the mud. Su Ming even lifted his head and looked at the top of the tunnel. There were some thick logs supporting the top of the tunnel, as if they were afraid that the tunnel would collapse. Su Ming looked at them, and a smile appeared on his lips. Soon, he traveled several tens of thousands of feet before he stopped. Not far away from him, he saw a ray of moonlight shining down. That was clearly the exit. He could vaguely hear a person's voice floating outside the exit. The voice sounded like it was chanting. There was a strange air to it. It floated in the air as if it was not too close. Su Ming arrived at the bottom of the exit and lifted his head quickly to look at it. He immediately took a step back. With the help of the moonlight, he saw a person sitting cross-legged on the ground as if he was guarding the cave. There's only one person guarding the cave. Judging by his chi, he's only at the 4th level. Su Ming's expression was calm. He took a step forward and leapt into the air. The moment he rushed out of the exit, the young man from Windstream tribe opened his eyes abruptly, as if he was stunned. Yet at the instant he was stunned, Su Ming lifted his right hand and swung it gently. The young man immediately felt intense pain all over his body, and a fiery red light seemed to fill his vision, as if he was being pierced by countless needles. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, and just as he was about to let out a shrill scream of pain, a cold but powerful hand stretched out from the back of his head and clamped down on his mouth, causing the scream he did not manage to make to turn into moans of struggle. Soon, his body twitched and he fainted. Su Ming's face was calm as he stood behind him. He placed the person down gently, then crouched down and looked around him. It was late at night, and the surroundings were quiet. The silhouette of the mudstone city could be vaguely seen in the distance, as well as the flickering bonfires of the subsidiary tribes. In another direction, Su Ming also saw a bonfire. However, the color of the flames was not red, but green. There was a strange air about the green flames. Under the moonlight of the night, there was a ghastly air to it. The chanting came from the green bonfire. Su Ming frowned and approached the ghastly place quietly. Slowly, when he got closer, he crouched down and saw a sight that made his heart tremble. The green bonfire was burning fiercely. There was a large amount of dried-up branches on it. Su Ming also saw some corpses among them. It was clear that the corpses had been dead for a long time. They were burning in the bonfire, letting out soft crackling sounds. There were 7 people sitting around the bonfire. Among the 7, there was one person sitting right in front of the bonfire. The other 6 people were divided into groups of 3 and sat on both sides of the bonfire. One of them was Bei Ling. The person sitting right in front of the bonfire was a young man wearing a black robe. He had no hair and was quite handsome. However, under the light from the bonfire, there was an evil air about him. Su Ming did not make a sound. He crouched down and focused his attention on the bonfire. Gradually, he saw some clues. He could vaguely see 6 waves of air coming out from the green bonfire. They were absorbed by the 6 people beside the bald young man, causing their faces to turn pale and their bodies to tremble slightly. Before long, one of the 6 people sitting by the side stood up and walked to the bald young man's side. He knelt down on one knee and slapped his chest with both hands. Immediately, his body trembled even more violently. A drop of green blood was forced out from the center of his brows and flew towards the bald young man. At the same time, a drop of dark green blood the size of a fingernail flowed out from the center of the bald young man's brows and fused with the blood that the bald young man offered. Once the green blood fused with the bald young man's blood, numerous blood veins appeared on the bald young man's body. However, there was a faint hint of green within those blood veins. A strong presence of qi erupted from the bald young man's body. Su Ming narrowed his eyes. He knew that he had made a mistake. This person was indeed not at the 8th level of the blood solidification realm, but neither was he at the 7th level. He was at the 6th level. He was only at the peak of the 6th level and looked like he was about to break through to the 7th level. Looks like I've overestimated Windstream Tribe. Su Ming did not move. His gaze fell on Bei Ling. At that moment, besides Bei Ling, the others had already stood up. Once they forced out the blood from the center of their brows, they returned to their original positions, exhausted. Wu Sun, I've given you more than 10 drops of phosphorus blood over the past few days. You're very weak now. The test is tomorrow. I'll only give you 1 drop today. What do you think? Bei Ling opened his eyes and looked at the bald young man with a complicated gaze. The bald young man was Wu's senator. There was a hint of green in his eyes as he stared at Bei Ling. Are you going back on your word? I've said it before. If you help me break through to the 7th level and I obtain the Elder's Berserker blood, I'll give you a sliver of it. It was the same in the past. If you don't participate in the first 2 stages, I'll give you a sliver of Berserker blood for the last stage. It won't be a problem for you to get into the top 50. Bei Ling hesitated for a moment. He looked like he was struggling, but he soon gritted his teeth and stood up. He knelt down on one knee before Wu Sun and pressed his hands against his chest. Immediately, his body trembled and a drop of green blood flew out from the center of his brows. However, the moment the blood flew out, Bei Ling's face became tired and he seemed to be dispirited. He wanted to get up and retreat to adjust his breathing, but he saw a glint in Wu Sun's eyes. He instantly lifted his right hand and tapped the center of Bei Ling's brows, who was caught off guard. You! Bei Ling's body trembled violently. He was about to fight back, but the moment his finger touched the center of his brows, a hole seemed to have opened up and drops of blood flew out. Don't worry, we're friends. I won't kill you. I'm just helping you not to hesitate anymore. I might as well give you everything you have tonight. Wu Sun smiled strangely and pulled his finger back. He was just about to control the dark green blood that had come out from the center of his brows to fuse with all the blood that had flown out from the center of Bei Ling's brows. Yet at that moment, his body suddenly trembled and he widened his eyes. He did not even have the time to retrieve the dark green blood that was floating in front of him. He took a few steps back and seemed to have blended into the green fire. A ray of black light appeared. As whistling sounds rose into the air, a long black spear charged forward like a giant black dragon. In an instant, it shot past the crowd, past the stunned Bei Ling, and went straight towards the bald man. Wu's senator with a muffled bang. The bonfire exploded. A large amount of green flames scattered in all directions, and a strong figure appeared abruptly. He was so fast that he stood in front of Bei Ling the moment the flames exploded. He lifted his right hand and seized the air. Immediately, Bei Ling's blood, along with Wu Sun's dark green blood, fell into the man's hand. The man had a normal appearance. He was Su Ming, who had changed his appearance. This blood is good. I'll take it. His voice was hoarse. He moved his left hand, and the black spear that was stabbed into the ground turned into a ball of black mist. He held it in his hand. He looked at Wu Sun, who was retreating quickly when the flames shattered. Wu Sun's face was grave, and there was even a hint of viciousness on his face. You're just asking for death. Wu Sun let out a fierce roar. A large amount of green mist instantly erupted from his body and surrounded his body. It turned into a blurry human figure that was 30 feet tall. The green figure roared soundlessly at the sky and lifted its arms. Like a zombie, it leapt towards Su Ming. At the same time, the others also reacted to the situation and started circulating their qi in their bodies. However, this was not the first time they had offered the green blood at the center of their brows to Su Ming. They were currently in a weakened state. Just as they were about to attack, Su Ming smiled coldly and stabbed the long spear in his left hand into the ground. The qi in his body surged into the long spear, causing a large amount of black mist to erupt from the spear. The moment the spear pierced the ground, a rumbling sound rang out once again. The ground seemed to tremble. A wave of air swept through the area, with Su Ming as the center, forcing the weakened people to retreat. Soon after, Su Ming charged towards Wu Sun at an incredibly fast speed. At the same time, he lifted the long spear in his left hand. As the black mist rushed into the sky, It seemed to have turned into a blurry image of a black eagle. It spread its wings and stirred up a huge gust of wind. With a ferocious expression, it charged towards a zombie-like figure. At that moment, the moonlight in the sky seemed to have shone brightly. Without anyone noticing, a ray of moonlight appeared out of nowhere and fused into the black eagle, fighting against the blurry green figure. Like a thunderclap, Su Ming's body tumbled backwards. He staggered a few steps before he quickly retreated. He charged towards the tunnel and crawled into it. The moment he retreated, a furious roar traveled forth. The blurry green figure crumbled. Wu Sen's face was ferocious. There was a wound on his chest, and blood flowed out of it. "How dare you injure me?" The green light in his eyes grew stronger. He rushed out and chased after Su Ming. The two of them disappeared into the cave in the blink of an eye, leaving behind the crowd, including Bei Ling. Their faces were filled with shock. They looked at each other, not daring to chase after the two of them. However, not long after, a muffled sound rang out from the ground. It was as if the underground tunnel had collapsed, and furious roars could be faintly heard. After a long while, Wu Sen walked out of the tunnel with a dark expression. He looked extremely miserable, and there was even a monstrous rage spreading from him. However, under that rage, there was an anxiety that no one could sense. "I've already snatched back my blood of corpses, but I won't be refining it tonight. Find this person. You must find him. He's not a member of Windstream Tribe. Find him. I'll break his neck with my own hands." That you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.